Welcome, welcome everybody to today's stream. Hello, hello. Good morning, or wherever you are. Hello, hello. Hello, hello. And hope you're all doing fine. Welcome, welcome. And here we are, playing some Guild Wars, doing my daily strike missions. I'm so sad. They are not that rewarding anymore, but still decent gold per hour. So, and they're fun, you know, so I'm a for fun player, so I'm still enjoying them. But it's quite sad that they nerfed them, to be honest. I really enjoyed doing them because I knew it's good reward and it has like very short time that you need to go in. Now it's shorter, that's good. The sad part is it's also less rewards, so I guess you have to accept that. That's fine. Playing quick DPS Chronomancer here, you can see it's awesome. Really strong right now. And yeah, it's just really fun build. Really strong, really good. And as usual, if you have any questions, any comments, just let me know. Always happy to answer them. And let's concentrate a bit. Don't vibe at Bone Skinner. It's obviously not something you want to do. Oh my god, that was nasty. How many people died there? 3 at once? So let's get the special action key. Nice, looks good, looks good. Another one. Perfect. So the special action key here is really misunderstood. A lot of people don't know how to use it or how it actually works. It's really important that you understand the special action key if you want to get Bone Skinner as fast as possible done. Maybe I should do a little bit of an explanation to this key, but this is insane. Does a lot of damage, and most people use it for CC and for damage. It scales heavily with power damage and of course with ferocity. Yeah. The thing is, what a lot of people don't understand is that it actually triggers on certain conditions. So when do you get it? You typically get it when you hit the boss, when the break bar is exposed at 75, 50 and 25% of health. That makes sense. If it's champion mob or higher, this is what happens. However, obviously the break bar for Bone Skinner is not always exposed, so you don't trigger it that often. However, you get it more often in Bone Skinner. Why is that the case? This is very interesting. You get this, of course, if you have the mastery, but the important part here is you also have to meet the condition that you hit the boss if it has the certain break bar up and the percentage, 75, 50 or 25. However, there are mobs around and the mobs are veterans, so they are not champions or above, therefore they don't have break bars, but if you hit them at 75% or lower health, you also get it. So how can you optimize Bone Skinner? You can optimize Bone Skinner by actually hitting the mobs, the trash mobs, exactly one of them to below 75%, then you trigger this once and it triggers it for the whole squad. Therefore, you can actually trigger this very consistently all the time. If you trigger one mob and then like a couple of seconds, let's say 5 to 10 seconds later, you do it again, another mob, because they are spawning like multiple wisps and stuff like that. So you can actually successively get the Spirit Nova action key and, I don't know, trigger it like 5 to 10 times in a row and the boss is dead if everyone uses it correctly. It's insane. That's how you optimize Bone Skinner if you want to get it very, very fast. Just for a little bit of like, I don't know, more information. Nobody does it, sadly, but I really like that this is possible. You could do it. You could. So hopefully that was enough explanation of the easy strike missions that some people did like me every single day. So don't want to over explain everything. So as usual, if you have any questions, just let me know. Just let me know. Other than that, we're just enjoying the ride here with like power, quickness, Chronomancer. It's extremely strong right now. So if you're a Mesmer fan, that's probably your best option if you want to play quick DPS or Alacrity DPS for that matter. Really good build. Nice bursts, nice utility. Just really, really well rounded. And of course, just straight up also range. I like it a lot. It's also very fun. But yeah, I mean, not too much happening Guild Wars 2 right now in terms of like new content and stuff like that, which is fine. I expect to get a balance patch in April. I think that it's every 3 months, so it's quite likely that we will get some time in April and balance patch. And typically like 3 to 4 weeks before that, they typically already release some kind of balance notes preview. And I'm very excited to see what we get there. Because to be honest, I have high hopes, as usual, for balance patches in the upcoming ones, that we get some buffs to the underused stuff. We will see. We will see if that's the case. You never know, you know? You never know with ArenaNet. Sometimes they listen to us, sometimes they don't. I think, for example, Vindicator is probably one of my top picks for buffs. I think Power Vindicator is like very underused, like extremely underused, especially with Conduit being there. I really hope that Vindicator gets some buffs, some usability function in general. I think Revenant and Herald could also use more just useful tools in their kit in terms of flexibility maybe. But yeah, I mean, who knows? Who knows? Nice, we got the invulnerability at the correct time, that's good. But yeah, if, as usual, let me know your thoughts on this as well. I don't want to be the monologuing here for the whole stream. If you have some thoughts about what to buff or to nerf, I would really like to hear that, because obviously I'm just a single player. Maybe I have a completely different opinion than a lot of other players. So we should listen to the whole community in that regard, I would say. But yeah, I think Vindicator, maybe even some Weaver buffs. Again, we need more Weaver buffs, I think. It would be awesome. I don't really care about nerfing stuff down. I think that's not that important to me. I think it's more important to bring stuff that is underperforming back up. I think that is something that is way more interesting, because underperforming specs are sadly often not as like popular, and I think that makes sense. People want to play the best in slot thing often. And it doesn't matter if you nerf something down, because I don't care if something is crazy overpowered, in PvE at least. I think it's fun, yeah, to play it, but you don't need to play it. So I think that's okay. I think for me the main issue is if something is like notoriously underpowered. Don't get me wrong, everything in PvE is completely fine and playable. So you can play full, I don't know, DPS, Vindicator and 6 of them in a raid, and you will completely be fine and clear everything. That is true, but you will have more difficulty than if you would run, I don't know, a squad of full powered DPS Dragon Hunters or something, because they have way more utility in the kit and flexibility. So just one example. And I think it would be nice that we get some more attention to the specs that are underperforming or not frequently played. Yeah. From a Herald Windy main, thank you. Came back to the game and want to get into high-end fractals, and it's a bit disheartening to see how they sit at the moment. The thing is, like, in a vacuum, if you look at Herald, if you look at Vindicator, the builds are not bad. The problem is the meta shifted so much in terms of, or not shifted, but just increased in power level. And I feel like Vindicator specifically as a power build is just so much worse than almost every other option. Like, look at Power Conduit. It's just straight up worlds better. Why would you ever pick a Power Vindicator other than just for fun? And I think that's a bit of an issue. I think they should buff that, and the same goes for Herald. Herald is such a cool class. It's probably my favorite Revenant Elite spec. And I played it when it came out, like hundreds of hours, yeah? The problem is that it does not really know what niche it wants to fill. Is it a boon support? Like, that is the main focus? Is it a healer? Is it a DPS? Is it power or Conti? I think it's really flexible in terms of what it can fill, but the problem is it doesn't fill anything so well that you can say, okay, this is why I pick a Herald. Right now, Herald is like the spec for people that want to get the boons out passively, and that's it. Like, you just want to get the boons, and the damage is not there. The utility is like oftentimes questionable. Yes, you have CC, and yes, you have some like decent self-tanking capabilities, but what else do you have? Not that much. So I think, like, I really hope that they increase the flexibility that Revenant has, maybe increase just the numbers. That would already help for Herald specifically, because it's just the damage numbers are too low, way too low. And I don't know, I'm just a Revenant fan, but right now, I feel like Revenant in PvE is Conduit. That is Revenant in PvE in a nutshell. Everything else is like just below. Yeah. And even after the nerfs, even after the nerfs that we got with the Tuesday balance patch, even after that, Conduit is, in my opinion, still like above all other Revenant specs. Welcome, Beard and Rock. Welcome, welcome. How are you doing today? How are you all doing today? Hopefully you had a nice week and now a nice weekend. Yeah. But yeah, I really think like balance in Guild Wars 2 is, especially in PvE, is really good. Like you have almost every single class is like playable very well to the highest level. Like to be honest, every single class is. There's not a single exception to this rule. But I really think that they should increase a bit more in the effort they put into buff underused stuff. I don't care about nerfing. I think that's what they can do, but don't need to do. But buffing, that's what I really hope they should do. Like Viva is another example. But there are so many things that I think they could buff just because they're a little bit underperforming. Yeah, Chronomancer. I'm back on the Chronomancer hype train, to be honest, because it's really good. Like, since they changed the stuff with, like, delayed reactions and danger time and, so to say, improved alacrity becoming baseline, it's extremely strong as a DPS build. Yeah, that's why I'm playing it so much, because I really like playing... I think we have to go stability here. I really like playing a spec that does damage while also having a lot of utility. You know, I can swap all my utility skills if necessary, and that is just awesome. You know, like there are not that many quick DPS or alacrity DPS builds that just have so much utility in the kit. I need one more stack. It doesn't really matter on the codons though. That's fine. Let's get some wounds up here, and we should be hopefully doing it well. Nice. Just some more damage on Herald, so you could, in theory, run Staff. Yeah, exactly. I think Staff is such a good utility tool, but I really feel like as a Revenant enjoyer, that like Staff is like your CC tool, and if you, as soon as you swap to Staff, you lose all your damage. And I think that is a little bit sad. You should maybe buff the power damage scaling on Staff auto attacks, just that you have some tools to stick a bit on like your utility. Why is everyone running? And okay, that's good. Yeah, I really think the problem is that Revenant has like Staff, and that's the insanest amount of CC that you can get on Revenant. The problem is, if you don't want to have CC, or if you want to have more damage, then you are forced to run Greatsword, Sword, and then you have no CC. Like, you have to decide, do I go for CC and lose all my damage, or most of my damage, or do I go for DPS and have no CC? I think that's not good, you know? Chronomancer has like, you can run Chronomancer or Untamed or Soul Beast, and those have so much CC that it's actually worthwhile running Relic of the Claw, which procs on CC trigger. Revenant would not be able to trigger that at all, and Chronomancer and Untamed and just Ranger in general, they can proc that they have that permanently up. This is insane, the difference in, like, for example, just one example here with the CC. There are other utility issues with Revenant, but that is crazy. That is just crazy to me. Exactly. I think the utility is in the legends, but the problem is that the utility is locked in specific legends, and you cannot bring like 3 or 4 legends, which you sometimes want to bring. So Revenant always has this issue, but I think like buffing the numbers of DPS or just utility in the weapons would already help a lot for Revenant. Of course, there will always be some kind of meta. I never said or never believe that there will be no meta. I think you cannot balance a game perfectly, and I think, to be honest, that's also not always appreciated. You don't want to have a perfectly balanced game where everything is exactly the same. I think like some edges is completely fine, and maybe even like good to have it in the balance. I think it's more the problem if something is like notoriously undertuned, like typically Herald or Revenant in general. I think that's more the issue for me. Yeah, welcome Snowbleach, welcome, welcome. How you doing? That's why I most played classes are Engineer and Mesmer. Nice gameplay that can be complex with possibility to choose utility for another situation. Yeah, I think it's not only Engineer and Mesmer. I think Guardian is also up there. Those 3 are probably like the top picks for utility and flexibility. But it's more like you pick what you like, and then you pick the one that is the best out of the ones that you like. That's typically how most people approach it, and I think that's Revenant often gets left behind. You pick it only if you just like it. The exception is Conduit because the numbers are so crazy, but Herald, Vindicator, and Renegade, they are just a little bit like left behind, I would say. Welcome, Viz. Welcome, welcome. Oh, this CC skill is so strong. Even here in this boss, where you don't need to CC, you get so much damage. It's not called Spirit Nova here, but it's still extremely strong. There we go. Almost top DPS is quick DPS. It's crazy. So good. Such a good build. How is now Holosmith? It's been a long time since I last played, so I think about returning to it. Nice visuals, utility, and DPS. I think Holosmith is strong as a DPS build. It's somewhat of a similar problem to a little bit to Vindicator, that it does not have like insane, like you pick Holosmith because it is really flexible. You pick Holosmith because it is having crazy CC output. You don't pick Holosmith because it has crazy, like, I don't know, mobility. Holosmith is just a decent DPS build with good numbers, but it doesn't provide anything special. So I would say if you like it, go for it, but you would not say and recommend it to someone because it's insanely flexible or because it's right now having the craziest numbers. So I think Holosmith, decent, better than Vindicator, but not like, I don't know, not the spec where I would say, okay, this is like this spec to play right now. Yeah. I've been looking into what classes I could play. Running Herald open world and Matters is great and all, but for Fractals I will have to see what else is out there. Yeah, exactly. I think like Herald, the problem is not, Herald is not like unplayable or bad in Fractals and raids and stuff. It's just like you really notice the difference. If you played in open world, it's completely fine. It's actually really good for tagging because you get credits if you share boons to your allies and they kill enemies. That is really cool. The problem is more like if you go into more, so to say, organized parties and squads where allies like typically expect you to bring a lot of damage and utility at the same time, then Herald falls off because it cannot provide as much damage as other classes, even if you play it perfectly. That's just a little bit of a sad thing. Yeah, Thief and Revenant are the two least played classes for me. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mean, it's for me rather similar. I would say Revenant is, I play more Revenant than Thief because I actually really enjoy Revenant. It's just like I should play it more, but the problem is Revenant is, like I said, not the top pick, sadly. Yeah, Return to Chanter Wilds is not as like rewarding, but if you do the dailies, it's actually okay. The dailies give you for conversions, for some rifts, actually like a mystic coin or something. I mean, we take it, but it could be better for sure. You're right, Rivers. But mystic coins are always welcome, exactly. Yeah, I think off-meta builds are completely fine. I just think like there are so many meta builds right now. Like, look at Chronomancer. Chronomancer has at least 5 different meta builds in PvE. You can play heal, you can play quick DPS, you can play Condi quick DPS, you can play power DPS, you can play Condi DPS. So you have 5 builds alone in like group content, plus solo builds and stuff like that. So I think you don't need to run off-meta builds to have variety. It's more like, oftentimes the meta builds typically use the same weapons, they use the same traits and stuff like that. They are close together, just change a little bit of the gear around. That's more like it, yeah. Exactly, Revenant specs are outclassed by all other specs in the game. Yeah, something, it's not really new, I agree. I mean, while we're already talking about it, I actually wanted to talk about that anyway. Let me quickly get that up. Because it's actually very interesting what I have here. Let me show, is it visible now? Yeah, it should be visible. I was looking at that earlier today. This is the Wingman, so to say, spreadsheet. And this is very interesting. It's a website where you can, I have to, like, I made it a bit bigger here. That's why you could see the things here, the numbers and the just a bit higher the stuff. But this is a website where you see all the people that log their kills for raids, fractals, and strikes, and the old strikes rather. So this is how many times people play stuff. We can take a look at what is actually most commonly played. That's quite interesting because it's fitting the debate here quite well. Yeah. Try to get at least 25k on a golem if you want to go instance, and it should be fine. Exactly. I think that's probably the way to do it. No, I did not play any serious PvP in a long while, to be honest. I just play for fun. I really don't play PvP right now for like going for rating and stuff. It's really, I have to be honest, the meta is okay. I actually think the meta right now is quite fun to play for me. The problem is more that it's just like I really don't play that much, and a lot of times when I play, it's not prime time, and that's in PvP that hurts a lot. Yeah. World versus World update already happened, or at least the change to the scoring system. Yeah. Okay, so now let's take a look at this. So this is the, like I said, Wingman uploading website. You can also go to that if you want. It's called Guild Wars 2 Wingman. And the interesting part here is this is all the people uploading the logs, so for kills, for raids, strikes and stuff like that. And you can clearly see how the meta shifts, but the important part here is this is heavily biased, of course, towards players that are a bit more experienced, because normal players might not upload their logs or might not have this access to or don't know about this website. So it's heavily skewed towards players that actually care about the meta way more than others. But this quickly shows how, for example, Visions of Eternity had a huge impact with the new elite specs. Like looking at this, like Tempest, like 5, Viva 1%, Catalyst 3%, yeah. And then you got Evoker at like 11%. So a lot of Elementalist players swapped to Evoker, or a lot of other players swapped to Evoker. So this is clearly visible that the Visions of Eternity specs, especially Amalgam, Evoker, Ritualist, they were like insanely like popular when it came out. And then over the course of time, the older specs, like you could see me as well, I played a lot of like Evoker, and now I swapped back to Chronomancer. You can see this is like, it's like the Visions of Eternity specs decrease over time, not only because they got nerfed, but also I think because a lot of people are like willing to change back to other things because they got bored of the Visions of Eternity spec all the time. Yeah. So I think that is very interesting to see here. But what we like talked about earlier is that Vindicator, where is it here? It's the smallest percentage. You can barely even see Vindicator. So Vindicator is the one that I would say is like, okay, this is the spec that needs to be buffed, because apparently people don't like to play it. Is it because it's bad, or is it because it's boring? Who knows, but they should definitely take a look at this. And the same goes for Herald and Renegade. They are like also not as popular, even though Herald is more popular than the other two by quite a bit. And you can see like Guardian is quite well split. Warrior is always a bit low, to be honest, but it has decently split. I think it's quite crazy that Paragon is below like 2%. That's crazy to me. Then you have Thief, yeah, not as popular as, for example, Conduit is like extremely popular right now, but even after the nerfs, it's really like popular. And then you have like Engineer being extremely popular. You can see Mechanist at almost 10%, so it's probably one of the highest ones. I think it's even the highest one, Mechanist, the most played spec right now. It is just really good at high level and low level. I think it's very interesting to see the split here. Exactly, Windy Who. Yeah, it's crazy that Thief is not as popular, even though Thief, in my opinion, is more flexible and more useful than a lot of Revenant specs except Conduit. Like Condi Deadeye, Condi Daredevil, they are so good as DPS picks. Like, and Spectre as well. I don't know why people don't play it as much. Maybe it's because the class is not as popular, I don't know. But the same goes for Elementalist. I think like Evoker had a big spike when Visions of Eternity came out. But then it like almost the whole player base swapped from Evoker to split all the other Elementalist specs. Like Viva is also very low. But yeah, I think like some classes are just more popular in speedrunning, right? Or not speedrunning, but like in general people that care about the meta. Like look at Necromancer, look at Mesmer. Mesmer has 3.6 plus 5. Mirage is almost non-existent, plus almost 9. So that's like, I don't know, like 17, 18%. So almost 20% is one class. The average would be 11 if you divide by 9 classes. So that's quite crazy. So you can clearly see that the Engineer, Mesmer, and maybe Necromancer are the most played classes in like rather high level play. It's crazy. It's really not as evenly split as you would expect, but I would say it's more like some outliers exist, and that's more the problem. But of course, this is heavily biased. I know. Yeah. Personally, I think learning meta builds is good, but only started to learn skills, and then you have to understanding about what skill does what. Then you branch out into off-meta builds. Yeah, I mean, that's fine. You can always adjust your build to your liking and to your needs. I think that's how you should do it as well. Should not always stick to the absolute meta build. Because of a DPS build, let's say, for example, DPS Virtuoso, yeah? If you play power DPS Virtuoso, you should still adjust your mantra or your utility skills in general for CC if you don't provide enough CC with your party. Maybe even go for more if you want even more DPS. Loss, but more breakbar damage. Yeah, I think that's very important. Yeah. I still play my lovely Evoker after the nerfs. I mean, it's still good. Like, Evoker is still good, and even, especially in PvE. I think it's just like in the beginning, it was like so easy to reach like 50k with just pressing the fire attacks off cooldown. That's why a lot of people played it, and then it's just over the course of time it went down. That's more like what happened. You can see it, like Mechanist is just really good, even though the numbers are not like you say, oh, 50k Mechanist, that doesn't exist, but it's still like very high valuable in a lot of cases. It's crazy, yeah. In between main thief or Engie, I can't pick. I would say, like, from a flexibility standpoint, I would say Engineer is definitely the way to go. Mechanist is extremely versatile. I would say Scrapper is extremely unique with the super speed and just really good. And I think even Amalgam right now is one of the best Alacrity DPS and also utility providers as a DPS. I think it's just really valuable. I think Thief is more like the class fantasy is there, and if you like it, go for it. But I think like Thief is more like Spectre is the support and everything else is DPS. And that's why it's not as popular. Because you have not the best like utility flexibility on a class that is always like niched into DPS, even though it's not true anymore, but it's more, that's why it's rather low. It's probably the least played class here if you count everything together. Maybe actually Ranger might be lower, surprisingly enough, even though like Ranger has good specs with Soul Beast, Druid, Untamed, even Gale Shot is good. It's just like, I think it might be lower, like, yeah, I think it might be lower actually. Crazy. Thief has more players than Ranger, at least in this spreadsheet. Very interesting. Guardian seems down a lot from the previous years. Yeah, I think Guardian, if you look at like End of Dragons almost about to release, like we had a lot of like Firebrand. Firebrand was like together with like Mechanist when it came out, like god tier. A lot of players played this. And then over the course of time, Firebrand goes down and almost every other Guardian spec goes up a bit, but in general, like the amount of players playing Guardian is a bit down. I agree. I think it's still one of the higher played ones. It's higher than Warrior, it's higher than Thief, higher than Ranger, higher than Elementalist, but it's not as high as it once was. And I think that's unique to see. Even though Luminary is so good, even though Firebrand is extremely good still, and Dragon Hunter is really good as well right now, it's just like, I think it's not as popular in speedrunning oftentimes, or in not speedrunning, but I'm just meaning not in open world. That's more what I mean. Yeah. It's called, the website is Guild Wars 2 Wingman. Thanks, Hype, for sharing. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, see you, Beard. See you. Power Staff Antiquary is easy and strong. Yeah, I think like people, it's more about the meta is what people perceive as fun and strong than what actually is the case. I think Antiquary is not as hard or as bad as people think. It's extremely strong in my opinion. You can play so many weapons, yeah. You can even play a pistol low intensity Antiquary that is probably one of the best low intensity builds out there. It's more like people don't know about it or don't play it as enough, and that's why the meta looks like how it is here. And it might be not fun to everybody. I think that's also a fair point here. It's very interesting. I started playing during Visions of Eternity Specialization Beta, and everyone thought Gale Shot was going to be at the top. Yeah, I actually was like, I like Gale Shot a lot, but the problem is the numbers are not there. I think if Gale Shot had better numbers, then I would pick it a lot. But I think for me, Gale Shot is like fun to play, but it's just not as strong as, for example, my Chronomance in a lot of cases, or it's not as flexible as like playing a Luminary. It's just, that's why I feel like Gale Shot has surprisingly low numbers, even though everyone looked at it and thought, yeah, Gale Shot, that will have crazy high numbers. It's probably different in open world, let's say that, but this is for instance content quite clear. You can also take a look at like Fractals as well. Yeah, it's true, it was mostly Firebrand here. That is like most Firebrand split into the other Guardian specs, I guess, yeah. For tier 4 Fractals, then challenge mode, do you have any suggestions for classes? I tend to do DPS or quick DPS. Yeah, let's take a look at Fractals. Let's zoom out a bit to get to the Fractal thing here. There we go, Fractals. Let's see how this changed. Zoom back in. And what do we have here? Make it as big as possible so that we can see the whole column, hopefully. Yeah, there we go. Okay, so let's talk about Fractals. Fractals are a bit different. You can see in Fractals you have a rather, Guardian gets way more value, Dragon Hunter like jumping up to 10% as a DPS build. One of the best DPS builds to play in Power Fractals is extremely strong. If you want a full tier list about Fractals and challenge modes and whatever, check out my YouTube channel and my website. I have tier lists for everything and they're all up to date. But this is more like what the meta is perceived as than it's what I think is the meta. But you can see like we have like Harbinger actually being in Fractals extremely valuable as a DPS build or quick DPS build. You have like Troubadour popping off more. We have way less Elementalist players. We have Soul Beast suddenly being there. You have the meta in Fractals is way more rigid than it is in raids because you have way more burstier phases where burst builds like Soul Beast, Dragon Hunter shine. But you also have like Condi heavy fights or ranged heavy fights where Spectre, Harbinger, and even Virtuoso shine. That's why you have, for example, Engineer specs being way more evenly split with Mechanist being not as strong in Fractals as Amalgam and especially Scrapper. So this is like really interesting to see that even though we have the same numbers, it's a different playstyle in 5-person content versus 10-person content. And of course the encounter design as well. Yeah. I'm not sure Snowbleach if Luminary has 600 range alacrity because I think it's still, I don't know if it's fixed because the number in the written version is 600, I think, but it's actually not applying to 600. I'm pretty sure Luminary is not correct still. Yeah. I think the problem with Thief specs is the versatility. While we can adapt a lot more in Engineer and Thief we cannot. Yeah, I think Spectre is the only one that can adapt very easily. I think on other Thief specs you are just really locked in. You cannot change that much, that's true. So this is the graph, how much you play, how much players that are more, so to say, hardcore and logging their clears for Fractals, how much the different specs are played. In the current, so the second to last column shows the current balance patch. And you can see that there is for Fractals here, this is the graph for Fractals. It's surprisingly like even split between the classes, but within a class you have like very heavily dominated some of the things. We looked at like raids earlier and they had a not completely, but a rather different split, I would say. Yeah. What spec would you recommend after the last balanced patch? For solo roaming? Yeah, we get to that in a bit. Yeah, but I think there are so many to choose from. Yeah. But Fractals usually have pretty specific builds compared to other content? Yes, exactly. For Fractals, you typically want to have, for example, a Power Soul Beast for DPS, or you want to have a Condi Spectre specifically for some challenge modes. So yes, it's quite specific. So Fractals is definitely more rigid and specific than raids. And you can clearly see that here with the spread of the classes. So for example, Warrior is not as common in Fractals as other builds because it's just not as good at the stuff that you would want in Fractals. I'm not saying it's bad at all. I'm just saying it's not as good as a Dragon Hunter or a Soul Beast in a lot of cases, or even a Scrapper. So yeah, definitely Fractals having a different perceived meta for sure. I'm not sure if that's even the objectively true meta or if it's more like the players that play Fractals decide that this is what they want to play rather than in raids, yeah. Because fractal gearing can always be a bit annoying. You can, in raids, you can just go in with exotic gear. In Fractals, you have to have a Senate gear and you have to have the Agony, which makes it more, so you tend to stay on the classes that you already have equipped. Raids, that's not really the biggest problem. Yes, this includes all tiers, but it's obviously for players that most of the time upload their logs, so it will probably be tier 4 and challenge modes mostly. Yes, this is the graph for raids, and you can see it's a bit like shifted. You have the classes being more evenly spread and not too high dominance, with the exception of Chronomancer and Conduit and Mechanist, of course, those being like extremely high. But yeah, very interesting. Warrior, Thief, and Elementalist seem underplayed, one class each armor type. Yeah, it's like, I wouldn't necessarily say that they are underplayed if you look at the whole game. I think like in open world, Elementalist, for example, is extremely popular. But the thing is, like, as soon as you go into more instance content, players that do that very regularly, that's what you see here in the graphs, they tend to also care about the actual numbers a lot. You know, in open world, everybody plays what they want to play. Yeah. And if you enjoy playing a fire mage, you enjoy playing a fire mage. You don't care about the numbers too much. But if you go into instance content and you want to get the clear time of 5 minutes instead of 20, then you might care about builds as well. And then you tend to swap classes depending on the current meta. Yeah, for sure. Elementalist is played way more than Warrior and Fractals from my experience, but you get Blades on Players and Fractals. That is true. That is true. I would say you almost never see Blades on in like instance content other than Fractals. You see it sometimes in raids, but there are not that many Blades on players. Yeah. Welcome, Snowdrop. Welcome, welcome. It's interesting for me, like how the meta shifted with Visions of Eternity. Like you had like the big shift, or a lot of Mechanist players shifted like to Amalgam and maybe even Evoker, yeah, stuff like that. So 12% before Visions of Eternity, and now we are almost already back at the 10% mark with Mechanist. So it's like, yeah, it's just like Mechanist was at 33% at some point, but it's still the most played spec. And it just grows, you know. Yeah, we had a spike of new specs and then it was lower, but now it's back and on top. It's interesting for sure. Yeah. Fractals seem a bit different, so I was looking for options. I will check them out. Or maybe it's time I get sweaty with an Alacrity Renegade. Yeah, Alacrity Renegade is really good for Fractals as well, but not the only option anymore. You have a lot of other good options nowadays. Yeah. Yeah, Holosmith is not as popular in PvE. You can see it here. You know, I have 4% Amalgam, 10% Mechanist, 2.5% Scrapper, and then you have like, what is this here? Like, do you barely see it, Holosmith? Yeah, so it's like very low. It's almost as low as you have like with the lowest of lowest with Vindicator. So it's just, they are not as, they have no unique trait that you would say, I pick a Holosmith or I pick a Vindicator because it has something. You only play it for fun. And that's obviously not always the best reason. You know, if it's not good, then you might have less fun. Yeah. And that is in Fractals somewhat similar. If you go to Fractals, you also see like Holosmith, 0.22%. Okay, yes, very low. It's probably even lower than Vindicator because Vindicator has a really good burst and people like to play Vindicator at least in some fights. So yeah, very interesting, very interesting. So what's the lowest played class in Fractals? Guess it's Mirage, maybe? Yeah, Mirage has 0.15%. Even though it's really good in certain fights, it's extremely good in certain fights, like A on Sangwa Peak, for example. But yeah, it's just not a lot of people play that. Yeah, really, really interesting. Yes, that's PvE. PvE rates and fractal data. Yes, it's very interesting. Yeah, it's about like how much clears and kills we get from certain classes with logs. That's the important part. Yeah, I will try to make a video about this in the future as well. So if you missed my talk here on stream, we will talk about that on a video as well. Yeah, it's interesting that the popularity of Paragon is not that like popular. Yeah, even though it's really like strong in my opinion, it's not as popular as I would guess, to be honest. I guess it's not as like, the support is there, but I feel like a lot of people play already other supports, so they don't need to shift to Paragon because it doesn't have any unique things, I guess. But I don't know. Yeah. Yeah. Okay, so let's get back into the game. But yeah, I agree. I think it's very interesting to see how the meta is actually perceived and the meta is like on paper. You know, if I look at my own tier lists, I often have a completely different opinion than what you could see here. Not necessarily because people disagree with me, but people tend to play classes that they like. And that's why Mechanist is so popular, because people like to play Mechanist and it's a strong pick. So it gets way higher numbers than classes that I would say are on the same power level, but people don't like as much. Which is, for example, like I think Weaver is not necessarily on the same power level as a Mechanist, but the numbers are like 20-fold different. So is that really just the power level? I highly doubt it. So that's interesting for sure. Very interesting. Do you ever play any core classes? Do I play core classes? Not often, have to really be honest. The problem is core classes for me oftentimes are less interesting than elite specs. Look at Evoker here. Evoker just gets another button to press. It has more mechanics, more skills, more traits to choose from than having a core class. So for me, it's always a core class even if the power level would be there, which typically it isn't, I don't like to play classes that make the game less exciting for me, less like flexible, less theory crafting. That's why I don't play core classes, I would say, often or at all. Not necessarily because they are bad. You can play core necromancer in PvP, core guardian in PvP, core warrior in PvP. That everything works and is actually, I would say, higher than in all other game modes to some extent. But I just am not as excited to try them or play them because I'm just more, I like to have more tools in my kit, so to say. Yeah. Mirage is just too niche and too hard for what it provides. You can get 90% of the DPS with 40% of the effort on other classes. Yep, exactly. Mirage is just like, we talked about it very early here on stream today, and I think like some classes that hopefully we get with the next balance patch, we'll get a look at, would be Vindicator, would be maybe even Holosmith and Weaver, but Mirage is also on top of there. Like Mirage is always on top of the charts, what should be like addressed. Like Mirage should get more value into auto attacks instead of like having crazy rotations, so that people actually play Mirage for Mirage and not for the high numbers, just because it's a strong class and fun to play. So I really hope for the balance patch addressing some of those issues. That will happen, I don't know, in April at some point, hopefully. And with a preview, I guess, in late March, maybe something like that. That's my hope. But who knows? Who knows? I have no information there. And we have also no information about what's happening after March. So March is the, so to say, the end of the roadmap right now. I'm excited to see what's going on then. Yeah. They play Mechanist because it's low effort, high return. Exactly. Mechanist is like the easy class to play and gives you still, for being easy, extremely high DPS. You can reach 47k DPS with a rather high like value build for utility, and it's easy to play. I mean, why would you not play it? You know, looking at Weaver, you have to sweat quite a lot to reach 47k at Weaver, and it's way harder, and it's just not as forgiving as Mechanist. That's why people play it as often. Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. It's really like, I think Mechanist it's very easy to play, as you put it here in chat, but it's also, I think a lot of people actually like the class fantasy. Yeah, I think this comes together, because I personally think there are a lot of other classes that could be made the argument that they are rather easy to play, but not all of them get as much attention as Mechanist, because I feel like Mechanist is like a big fan favorite. I think a lot of people like to play Mechanist as well, because it's a unique class design. It's really fitting the engineer headcanon, and I think it's just like probably, I don't know, 75% of engineer mains like to play Mechanist the most. It's just like, this is, or at least that what I feel like. Yeah, I'm not a big Mechanist enjoyer, but I can see the appeal. I really can. Yeah, I guess the people like the robot. I guess, yeah. I don't know. I would say I would play Mechanist like 100% more if we could change the color, or if we could change the look of the mech. You know, having skins that we could change the look of attacks or the Mechanist. I would be like way more attracted to the class, because then I could like make it a bit more not as, I don't know, bright in the eyes. Yeah, I don't know. We will see if that will ever happen. Probably not, because otherwise they would already have sold something like that on the gem store. But for me, that would like highly increase the gameplay interest that I have in the class. ArenaNet needed to offer the lower skill players something to play. Exactly. Mechanist is like a really good pick for players that want to get into engineer, and they will have really good like time with it. Holy shit. That's almost like two-shot me. What the? That's insane. I just got like two-shot by this power thief. What? Look at this. What? Okay, counterplay 0. Of course, I could have played that way better, but like instant steal and the half of my life with the second attack that is like instant kill. Ooh, like, that's annoying. That's annoying. That was I mean, this guy is obviously playing very like aggressive thief build. So let's get some kills here. Let's clear this up. Have to get the kill here though. There we go. Get the kill here hopefully. Master Thief. Okay, did we not get the rally? Oh my god, we didn't get the rally. Okay. There are so many people here. And a spear spellbreaker on me. Oh my god, and the thief is of course on me again. 9k backsteps. Okay, and 6k arcing slice. Yeah, I think I see why Evoker is like very squishy. Yeah. A Bladestone in PvP. Yes, it's crazy times. Yeah, it's a one-shot build or something. It's insane how much damage they do. Dagger. I mean, if I focus them, they have no chance. But they are stealthing all the time. That's the annoying part. And against stealth, I cannot do that much as an elementalist. Okay, there we go. I think I blinded their engage. Pretty sure. This is a tough match. I think I got them. Because the Dragon's Tooth will kill them. Yeah, even if they stealth. Can we get some damage down? Maybe we can go for Skyhammer here. So, Dagger Virtuoso with like Condi Signet. Maybe for the stun break, I guess. Get the burst on node. Should get the kill here. There we go. Nice, but my team is dying on the other side of the map. Not good, not good. But PvP is like, right now the meta is really like fast paced. I like that. But I can definitely see that like just the general, the specs. Look at my team is dead. Oh. I think I got him. I have to play it really carefully here, to be honest. I even put the blind on me, but I can't play against someone that steals on me with the backstab. It's too much. Cloak and Dagger. I cannot blind the attack if you steal in the last second. Stealth is so wild in this game. Yeah, I think stealth is like... I like relics that interact with like revealing because stealth is so strong. Like, if you cannot deal with, or if you don't have like AoE attacks, I don't have that much AoE, then it's really painful to deal with. It's just, I don't know how to counterplay Thief in a lot of cases if you play against someone that has just a lot of stealth access, because it's still somewhat of a tap targeting game to some extent. Holy shit. Okay, we have one down. One more to go. 2 more to go. I mean, this guy goes into Vengeance, yeah. Maybe they can get the rally here. At least this guy dies. This is a tough match. This is a tough match. But it wasn't only the one-shot Thief, to be honest. I also played really badly. It's just my team is dying very fast, and I'm also very squishy. That doesn't help. Welcome, Froken. Hope you're all having a nice day, having some fun here in Guild Wars, but I don't know. I had more fun playing PvE than I had fun playing PvP. That is not a good showcase of Evoker right now. Bit sad though. Oh, the combo. Okay. Got him. That's good. Is there a sentiment that Thief players are toxic? I would say Thief in general is not toxic. I think the problem is more like if you encounter Thief in World vs. World roaming, for example, the sentiment is that a lot of the Thief players are annoying to deal with, and a lot of times they can be toxic. But I wouldn't say so. I wouldn't say that the general sentiment is that Thief players are toxic. I don't think so. I think more like Thief players are more annoying. They like to be annoying. That's why they play Thief. Not because they maybe you can bait them in. No, we can't. They like to be annoying. Oh my god. Like engaging with a steal from 1200 range and dealing like 5k damage. It's insane. 40% damage. Okay. I want to make a character that for doing daily fractals with spec that has also damage and nice sustain. There are a lot of them. You can check out my tier list on my YouTube channel and you will find that there are so many really good builds that have sustain and damage. But of course, oftentimes in fractals, if you do daily fractals, you don't really need self-sustain because you have a support with you. So I would rather recommend something that has some active defenses that are baked into the kit, like Power Virtuoso, Scrapper, where you have blocks, evades in there, in your kit, and then you don't need a lot of healing. I think Scrapper is probably your best bet because you get barrier from damage they do. That's why I would say you have some active sustain as well, but you don't need to have crazy healings if you have decent supporters. So I would say probably Scrapper is your best bet there. Explain to a noob how to get mastery points only for achievements. So yes, mastery points you get from achievements, you get from doing the story, and getting the achievements there. But yeah, it's really like mastery points. You have to, the best easiest way is typically going for the mastery insights, where you just have to interact with, like with the hero points, just with the mastery insight in the new maps. But there is no better way. That's the only way, in my opinion, to get mastery points. There's nothing else that you can do. You can do some story, you can do some map related achievements, but yeah, it's just achievements. No, I'm not saying Thief is bad, or I don't like playing against it. I think it has a different like type of skill set that you need to play against the Thief well. But I personally think it's Thief players tend to be the people that like to stealth, that like to be sneaky, that like to be like annoying the enemy with like mind playing games or something like that. So I think like Thief players are a special type of player because stealth is really, really obnoxious in competitive modes, and like Ranger and Thief are the most, like they have the most access to those. That's why, yeah. Do people think the annoying part about Mesmer too? I think Mesmer, yeah, but the thing is Mesmer nowadays has way less stealth, like in the meta builds and stuff, than Thief. Yeah, Mesmer is more annoying because of the clones and the instant CC and stuff like that. That's a different part of annoying, but you can deal with that if you have stability, if you dodge at the correct time. Counterplaying stealth is way harder because stealth is more like a guessing game. It's not actual skill, so to say, that you can see some attack happening because you cannot see it. It's just baseline stealth counteracts every single fact that you need to actually avoid an attack. It's more guessing. If you look at really high skilled players, they can guess when a player will be able to steal, will be able to do their attack, even if you can't see them because they know the cooldowns, because they, so to say, know the gameplay loop, but it's still a guessing game. So that's why I think it's very annoying, like Thief or in general stealth in PvP and World vs. World, because it's really like not a skill-based interaction that you have. It's more of a, I guess what you want to do interaction. And I think that's not a very, if it gets the upper hand, that can be very annoying to have to play all the time. That's why I like to have some stealth nerfs in PvP, especially in World vs. World, because it can be really obnoxious if you fight a thief that disengages all the time and it's perma-stealth. That is very annoying to deal with, as every other class that is not a thief. Yeah. Yeah, the answer for Fractal is definitely Scrapper, exactly. I like Thief and have been thinking about boosting a Ranger to level 80. I mean, Ranger is extremely close to Thief in the current competitive mode meta because it's very sneaky and stealthy as well, but it's not like... Ooh, should probably play defensive here. Oh, the Gale Shot is here as well. Oh my god, everybody is here. Okay, that's good, I survived. I have to focus the Gale Shot though. Okay, that was a good invulnerability, to be honest. Maybe get a good elite here. I think that's a good elite. No, maybe not. They disengaged. Okay. Come on, we can get the Gale Shot here. And kill. There we go. Good, 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 good. We can get maybe the rally here for our ally. Oh my god. That's scary. It's a very scary team fight here, and they got actually the rally on the Gale Shot. Bit annoying. The pet is killing me, of course, from range. That's how we like it. Was the best teleport in a long while that I have seen to dodge my Phoenix. It's fine, we get the kill hopefully. Yeah, many classes require a target. I agree. I think stealth is not only annoying to play against, but it's also like if I play this build here specifically, I need a target for 90% of my skills. So it gets really, really obnoxious to play against something that stealths. But the interesting part is, if I played the same build with Spear, for example, instead of Scepter, I suddenly have only 20% of my attacks require a target. So it always depends a bit on the matchup. But I think in general, like how it is to counterplay stealth, it's really annoying because there is not much counterplay that you can do. Okay, this guy will now hopefully... Yeah, I thought so. Interrupt the heal, okay. Oh, that was a bit annoying. Was a good invulnerability, I have to be honest. I like the reflect. The reflect is really like, oh my god, and the emob. The reflect is really, really fun. If you use the reflect at the right time against the Gale Shot, ooh, they deal a lot of damage to themselves. Yeah. What do you think about Scrapper with Celestial Gear? So I think Scrapper with Celestial Gear is... Okay, we have a Rage Quit. Okay, very interesting. Scrapper with Celestial Gear in open world is fine. It's a good solo build. It can be played as a quick healer. But I would say in a lot of cases, it's probably better to play any other engineer spec with Celestial than Scrapper. Scrapper is really made for power. That's just sadly the case. There are some classes that really favor power builds, and I think Scrapper is one of them. In open world, it's okay, but in group content, I would say you are trolling quite hard. I would say you are trolling rather hard if you are playing Celestial Scrapper. I think that's not a crazy good build. Yeah, Magnetic Aura is extremely fun because it's the same argument that I have often when I talk about PvE, that it's really hard to see if you have some boon up. The same is for Magnetic Aura. Magnetic Aura is more a skill that is really annoying to counterplay because you have to look at the buff bar of your enemy or ally. Yeah, so I have so many things that they can also see, And this is just giving me a buff, like 3-second buff here, magnetic wave. And it acts exactly like magnetic aura, but it's a different buff. So you have to look for 2 different buffs as a Gale Shot to see what is actually the buff that will reflect you. It can be very annoying to deal with. Can we win this 1-on-1? I'm not sure. I guess we can. Nice, we got them. Maybe we can get the second kill here as well. Nice, we did. Vengeance. I will rally. Nice. Nice. That was again not a very fun match, but at least we showcased the strength of this build in the end. Yeah, 50% team damage almost. Okay. Yeah, welcome, okay, CD. Welcome. Yeah, I'm doing fine. I mean, it's interesting to play like the game and just play it for fun, because right now I have no goal. As you can see, I'm just playing random game modes all the time, having fun talking to you. So I'm doing fine. I think it's quite relaxing for me. Ooh, let's take a look at the new scoring system. I usually play this Evoker build with Spear and PvP and find it easier to kite. Yeah, I mean, it's a bit playstyle dependent, I would say. I think it's playstyle dependent. Both are completely fine. I think Spear can be easier to kite. I think you can play both. Like, both of them have their strengths and weaknesses, yeah. I once one-shot myself on a scrapper while he was randomly pressing hammer 2 while fighting someone else. Exactly, yeah, it's very interesting how that works. It's not... There are some... I think, like, reflecting and stuff like that is very interesting mechanic. I think that makes the game more interesting. But the problem that I have, some of them are really badly telegraphed, or like you just have to know the attacks and the builds very well that you fight against. And I think that's not very new player friendly. I agree with that. I think the discrepancy between actual numbers in your tier list is the intrinsic motivation behind them. You evaluate classes by an absolute standard, so the highest possible performance in either circumstances. But most people play by a confined standard, aka what's the best DPS for a specific amount of effort I'm willing to put in. That's why under every build guide you have people asking for different weapons gear. It's not they can't acquire the necessary stats, it's just that that is more effort for them to be willing to invest right now. Which also explains why low intensity builds are most popular type of build. It's a stringed meta build tailored to a lower input willingness. So the path of least resistance for an acceptable outcome. Thank you for coming to my TED Talk. Yeah, I mean, I think you pretty much hit the nail here. Yeah, I think that's makes a lot of sense. Can we get to the Zerg here? Maybe we should also go for the Zerging build. What is this even? Yeah, okay. Maybe we can get there. Is that ours? No, it's not ours. Maybe not. I'm not sure if we can get there. Maybe. Maybe we can get a rally here. No. My set. I think we can get there actually in time. The nail on the head. That's it. That's what I was thinking. What was the expression, you know? And then I forgot in the middle of my sentence. It's fine. It's just like my brain doesn't work. That's just how it works. New player here, enjoying and appreciating your content as I'm trying several of the professions to see what I want to invest time in as a main. Would it make sense for the story to be account based? Yeah, it would definitely make sense. It's sadly not really the case. It's somewhat the case. If you hit certain breakpoints, you can always jump to them on a new class or new character. But it's definitely, you're right. I think it would make more sense to have even more account-bound stuff. I agree. That would be even better. I should definitely name my... I should definitely name my stuff correctly. I think that's the correct one for roaming. Okay. It seems like a waste of time to have it be character-based as a new player. Yeah, I agree. I think it's really annoying. You don't want to have content locked behind like just replaying something that you already did and you don't really want to. That's annoying. I agree. 100%. Yeah, see you, Mike. See you, Mark. Yeah, it's there are still like I think they should actually try to get more of the like bugs fixed faster. I really am a bit scared of the bugs that they don't fix them that fast. There are so many. Okay, now they died, I think. But yeah, I really think so. I think like if they would like fix bugs faster, I think that would have a better image. Really right now it feels like they fixed some of the bugs, like for example some of the killer bugs and stuff like that. They fixed, but not as much as I really hoped they would do very fast. I made a post in the forums about it, but was curious what other opinions were. No, I think I'm with you there. I really think there is not much difference that I have here in the opinion than your opinion. I think that's just it makes sense. I agree. Maybe we play some Guardian or something. Play some Guardian. Yeah, let's play some Guardian. I want to play some World versus World. Let's do that. I feel like I'm also the wrong person to ask about story, because I'm engaging in Guild Wars 2 story. I'm engaging like very like how I engage with story is like I do it once and then never again. I really am not the biggest like story fan in games in general, but also in Guild Wars. So for me, it's always like if I'm done with the story, I don't want to read them ever. And I have 70 characters, as you could see, and that is like I don't have story unlocked on most of them, like almost all of them. It's just like I'm not like that much invested into them. Story. It's just like I'm not. Yeah, exactly. Whisper of Tormag is bugged like crazy, and that's like I play that almost every day, and it still like annoys me. Yeah, it does really. I have 70 characters. Yeah, way too much to be honest. But that's just over the course of time. I just always wanted to have more characters and more storage space and stuff like that. So that's what it is right now. Yeah. It wouldn't hold my breath for bug fixes outside of the 2-week window. Yeah, if it's outside of that scope, it's unlikely to get ever fixed. Yeah, I think it's so weird to me that they like say, okay, if the window is over, we don't engage with this ever. That's just crazy to me. Like, you know, if you have content like raids or content like some open world bosses that are done daily by some players or weekly at least, it's crazy to me that they say, no, 2 weeks are over, people still play it, there is a bug, but we don't go back to it, we don't have time to it. You know, some bugs are really like obnoxious and happen all the time. They should definitely take a look at those again. Like, I really think so. But I guess that's not how it goes. So is there no need to do it on another character? Yes, there is no need to do story on another character. If you did it once, there is like no need other than if you didn't get the achievements, you can play it again, but you can play it on the same character as well. There is really no need to do story ever again if you wanted to. You don't even need to do it in the first place for a lot of things. Yeah. What about single player RPGs? The story is the focus. What do you think of those? Can you get into them? So I think games that are solely built on the purpose of having a good story, and that's the whole, like, so to say, gimmick of them. That's why you play it. I think that's completely fine. I think that makes sense. I think for me the problem is in MMOs specifically, but also in other like really big games, maybe not MMOs, but big games in general. I think in a lot of cases the story makes it so that you have content that you only do once and then never again. And I think that's time that developers put into something that is maybe good, but it's wasted after a certain percentage of players played it because they will never come back to it. Thanks a lot for the Prime, Beardek. Really appreciate it. Thanks a lot for the support. Hope you're enjoying the stream. But yeah, for me, it's like RPGs, yes, make completely sense if it's fully story focused and stuff like that. But every game that is focused on other things than just story is like oftentimes wasting development effort into stuff that could have been just a better game, more content for the game than having too much story. I think if you find a balance in MMOs, that's completely fine. But I think Guild Wars 2, especially in the last, let's say, 3 expansions, focused a lot on story and made the story, so to say, the necessity that there is always a new story content and chapter, which they didn't do in the Visions of Eternity expansion in the last update. And I think that's maybe for the better, because just forcing story content that is maybe not even good and having not a good map because of that is not healthy for the game. That's my opinion. But yes, I would say RPGs are completely fine and I like to play them if they have really good story. But most of the time I would rather watch a movie or read a book or something like that and play like a game that I actually like the combat of. That's more my type of like content that I play. But I'm not judging here, I'm just saying that's what I do, yeah. I did core story and world completion on like 4 characters. That's crazy. You know, I mean, world completion I did as well for the legendary and stuff, but doing like the core story 4 times, that's insane to me. That's actually crazy to me because the core story is not bad. I think the delivery is maybe not the best, but the story itself I think is actually quite decent, at least as far as I remember. But I would never ever do them again. I think like core story is for me like, I don't know, dozens of hours that I have to invest into something that I actually don't care. So I also don't see any value. Yeah, you get like 3 blackline keys if you level up to level 50 story or something. Yeah, sure, but come on, like 3 blackline keys in the same time that you go to the story is probably like faster to farm the gold and buy the key on sale. Yeah. No, I would say I play mostly multiplayer. My type of games is like always focused on build crafting, on interactions either with others or having just really good experimentation. I would say I play 2 types of games. I play large scale multiplayer games like MMOs or just multiplayer games, or I play like single player like roguelikes. Those are the 2 types of games that I play. Nothing really other than that, I would say. Yeah, Final Fantasy is a good example of when you do the story well, you have a good game that like sells the story, but at the same time, I think the thing that I see with like Final Fantasy is that if you're not as much into story as the game wants you to be, then you might not enjoy the game. And that is something that is concerning, why I don't invest that much time into Final Fantasy personally, because I know it is too much focused on story for me personally. Yeah. Focus on story also has to be paired with an actual good story, not demon or bear. Yeah, I didn't want to say that, but I think you are right. I think if you invest time as the developers into story content, it also has to like bear fruits, you know? Sorry for the pun here, but it really has to, so to say, deliver. You know, if you put time into story and then the story is there, but the actual quality of the story is not as high, then oftentimes it would have been better to have less or no story instead, because just mediocre or not crazy good story is not always the most important aspect to ship with a new patch, I would say. Yeah. Welcome, Brexit. Always happy to help, yeah? If you have any questions, just let me know. Exactly, bear fruits, exactly. Sadly, the most recent patch doesn't make me hopeful for the upcoming releases. It's clear the current team working on Guild Wars 2 is very small. I think, to be honest, I was very shocked with like the core feature update having good features and just not a really big scope. I was shocked how badly the community reacted. That was for me way more of a negative than the actual patch itself. I think the community reacted so badly to this patch that on top of the stuff that ArenaNet did or did not do with the patch, I think it was extremely negative for the image, let's say, image of the game, because it's just insane how negative people reacted to the fashion templates. Yeah, and I can understand some of the criticism, but the problem is that this will lead to more like people quitting than the actual patch because of the community feeling of it. That's more what I think is like very, very problematic. Very problematic in my opinion. Yeah. I wanted to get the green text gone on my screen. That's interesting. I mean, that's also an argument for doing story, I guess. Yeah, I can see that. I can see that. Okay, so let's push through here. Let's get through this. Get some boons up. Maybe we can join the commander. Yes, we can. Get some unlock, like some stuff here going. Finally, it's finally some action here in World vs. World. Did not touch the feature at all until now, and the drama doesn't make me want to do it in the future. Yeah, exactly. I think it's like the problem is that the patch itself, I think the raiding side of the patch is insanely good. It might not be big, yeah? I think that is a fair criticism. It's not a big patch. But I think the raiding part of this, like UI update, the reward update, the challenge mode, leaderboards and that stuff, I think it's insanely good. Like, it's just really smart. It should have been there a long time, and I think they really did a good job there. The problem that I have is that this is for players that play raids. And if you don't play raids, you got like quick play, which is, yeah, not the best, but not the worst. And then you have, for open world players and fashion players, you have fashion templates. And that's it. That's the whole patch in a nutshell. So I think, yes, the size of the patch was not big. But I personally also think that it is way worse received than it actually was. Like, really. And that's why I think the community really hurts itself by making such a negative vibe around the patch. Because that will not bring in new players. That will just hurt the whole, like, how people feel about it. I really think so, yeah. Welcome. Why did they not do a better with the fashion templates? I think I agree. That is a bit, like, if they knew that fashion templates are somewhat of a, so to say, not perfect feature yet, they are not completely, like, happy with it, they could have easily done a better event with it. Like, just for one weekend, let people try it. Like, everybody gets infinite fashion templates on a character, and they can just try it and see how it goes and get some feedback. But I think they were not aware of, like, the mistakes that they made with the fashion templates. I think they thought they had thought about everything. I would guess they did not expect there to be a need to redo some of this stuff. That is my guess. Of course, that's just my guess. Your guess might be better than mine, I guess. Yeah. Yeah, Keller is not like insanely good, but I think it's still worth it. Yeah, it's still a new addition to raids, so I think that's good enough. Yeah. We didn't gain functionality, but instead things got harder for no reason. I'm not saying the criticism is bad. I'm just saying how the community reacted was in a lot of cases over the top. You know, you can't criticize something, but you starting a petition to like, I don't know what they even wanted to do, that's just crazy. You know, that's just insane. They are developers, they are just humans, they might make mistakes. Just tell them what they should do better and they listen. You know, they already listened and told you what they want to improve and stuff like that. They don't even improved some of it already. So I think it's like, I don't want to white knight the game here. I criticize it a lot, but I think like criticizing the developers is one thing, but offending them is definitely not the way to do it. Yeah. Is quick play raids a good gold source? Nah, I wouldn't say so. It's a decent source if you want to get legendary insights, but it's not a crazy good source for getting gold. It's okay. It gives you some gold, but it doesn't give you crazy gold. Yeah. I would say like play it if you need legendary insights, if you want to have fun and magnetite shards and stuff like that. But if you want to get the best gold per hour, I think there are way better ways to do that. Yeah. What's the best way to know what to do in World vs. World as a solo player, still new to the World vs. World scene? I would say just try to have fun, try to find something that you like to do, either run around alone with a roaming build and try to flip camps and kill enemies alone, or you do what I do and just find a squad and join the squad. Those two are the best options that you have as a solo player. It just seems they overthought it. It's way more complicated than it needs to be. Yeah, I agree. I think they could have done it way less, yeah, just over the top. Like, I really think they could have done it. An easier would have been better. Oftentimes, an easier solution is a better solution, and here it's definitely the case. I agree. And I have to be honest, I don't engage with fashion templates. It's for me, I'm just not a fashion enthusiast. So I might not be a wrong one to judge if they're good or bad. I'm just thinking offending the developers is never the right way, you know? Criticism is good and all, but not offending. Trying to get a design contest, but I'm core without mounts and failed to get to the places at dry top. First time there, was a bit overwhelmed. So mounts help you a lot in the core maps and the other maps because you get to like content that you might not have access to otherwise. But I would personally say dry top specifically, you should get to every single place without a mount because it was designed before mounts even existed. So you should be good even without mounts. But of course, getting mounts will help you in the long run anyway for the maps that require mounts. Yeah. Exactly. I think the expectations were really high for this patch. Like saying core feature update was already like telling me, holy moly, there has to be some crazy update. And then over the course of time, it became clear, okay, they have the fashion and they have the raid update, and that's what they consider core. Yes, it's core because it's not Visions of Eternity bound, but it's not like crazy big. So my hopes for the next patch are a bit like dampened, so to say. I think the next patch is not having very high expectations from me. Like in May, we get a new map and new story. I don't expect it to be crazy long or crazy good map. My hope is really in the final patch, where we get not only a new map, not only a new story, but we will also get new raid boss, new challenge mode for the raid, new fractal, new convergence. So there will be a lot of stuff happening in the last patch, and I really hope that lives up to that. Yeah, that is my big hope. What are we doing? Like doing the gate from the other side? Nice. Yeah. I don't think it's a shocking reaction at this point, and it has a history of half-baked execution. Housing is dead due to insane prices and fixed nodes spawns. None of the ratings or magnetite charts amount make any sense. A new direction for fights which just resulted in giga HP sponges, the fashion templates overall. Yeah, I agree. I think it's like you could have seen that coming in a long while. It's not something that is like surprising, but I have to be honest. For me, as someone that enjoys instance content, I think the one half of the patch is really good. Like I really think so. It's a good patch. The raid rewards are smart. The infallible title is smart. The UI for the raids is good and really like working well. I think it's just the other half that is not good, which is the fashion templates. So I can understand if you don't interact with one half of it, that you are upset, but I think it's like we had worse patches. We really did. I strongly believe so. So I think like saying like I quit this game because of this patch, it's a fair point, but I think it's more like it's the sum of what happened in the past, not only this patch. For me, at least, yeah. Would you rank Vindicator in the current meta? New player and really enjoying it? I think Vindicator overall is not the best spec, but it's if you like it, play it. Sure, go for it. I think Vindicator is a decent spec, especially in competitive modes. It's rather decent. In PvE, it's like, yeah, you can play it. It's not like crazy good. I would say it's like, for me, B, maybe C tier. Yeah. Not saying that it's not playable, I'm just saying it's not like a meta pick in any game mode. Except World vs. World in a Cirque, where it's really good as a healer. But that's about it, I would say. But if you like it, go for it. Every class, especially in PvE, is like capable of clearing even the hardest content. It's more about what you like than it's about what is like the best to play. Yeah. I just don't want another Soto or Chanterwald's end of the expansion. Yeah, I really hope that like the next patch is okay, or even better than okay, and the last patch is good. Like that is my big hope. I like, you know, they had 2 expansions where the last patch was like rather bad, and hopefully they learned this time. And they say, okay, this time we actually learned out of it and have a big finale that is like worth the whole expansion. Because Visions of Eternity, Chanterwald's, and even Soto had a great start in the expansion. So my hope is that they actually live up to the start and have a great ending as well. That is my biggest hope. I don't know if that will happen, but this is really like, for me, August is like the month of like of what's going on. You know, I expect that we will get the last patch in August. That's roughly where the 3 months after the next patch will be. So I really like August is where everything comes together. Like that's where I would say the future of ArenaNet lives. If like this is like where the hopes, so to say, come true, or the dreams, so to say, will just stay dreams. We will have to see. We will see. August is like exciting. Until then, I don't expect anything crazy, to be honest. I like the game for now. I like to play it, but I don't see with the last update that we will get any big updates. It's just like if you have a quarterly patch that is rather small, like this wardrobe and raid update, previously called core feature update, I don't have high hopes for anything until August, to be honest. Like I don't see like crazy content and crazy good content coming. Yeah, I think the Visions of Eternity launch was extremely good, and a lot of new players joined, a lot of veterans came back because of the elite specs, because of the marketing, whatever. I really hope they can live up to this and like tell people, yeah, we are having a good game, and not only because of the expansion launch, we also have good content after that. That is my hope. I don't know if that will live up to that though. Yeah. The quality of life is fine, but that's not the patch in my opinion. A patch should move things forward, like a new map, new encounter. Changing the interface isn't enough content for most people, especially in this community. Yeah, I think that is a fair point of criticism for sure. For me personally, the content is always features. I don't care about new content. I know I'm a big minority here. I don't care too much about like new raid bosses or new like maps in PvP or World vs. World. I like to have new features. You know, for me, Visions of Eternity is an elite, like with the elite specs, is the content for another year. I just like to play elite specs, like to build craft and stuff like that. I know almost nobody has the same opinion as I do, but that's what I think. But I can understand why you say that this is no content. I can totally understand that. But they said that since the beginning, that the first patch will not have any new content other than the raid boss. And I think it is fair. If you did expect anything else, then I don't know, you were a bit like, to be honest, like illusional. I think that's just not realistic. If they say there is not going to happen a lot, then there will not be happen a lot. Yeah. But I agree. I think like UI updates should not be the main selling point of the new expansion. That is not very smart. You know, you want to have new crazy features that are actually content and not only like just UI. I agree. 100%. The biggest improvements to the game they can make are UI and visual clarity. I agree with you there, but I think that would not necessarily bring a lot of new players back into the game, or like returning players into the game. I think a lot of players that already played the game would like to have more new content than is produced. I think the biggest point why a lot of PvE players specifically don't play the game anymore is not because the UI is bad, because players don't like the game. I think it's more because they don't know what to do anymore. Yeah, there is, so to say, they are missing the content. And I think every single like PvE game, like even World of Warcraft and Final Fantasy, have this problem that there are some spikes where a lot of players come and then they are done with the content at some point and then they leave again. That just happens. They deal with it way better than Guild Wars 2 does, but this issue always exists. So in my opinion, it's for like ArenaNet, they are in a rather bad spot because they have to live up to this, but they never did. And now with having less resources on the game, is even worse. It's even worse. But I agree. I think like UI improvements would make the game way easier to get new players into. But I'm not sure if they have the resources to do that. I hope they do, but I don't know. I really don't know. But yeah, I don't want to be always like negative or something. You know, for me, it's like the game. I like the game. I like the game a lot. I think it's actually right now in a really good spot in terms of balancing and fun. It's just like there is not that much content for some players. Oh, the poison is killing me. There we go. They have less resources now. I thought it's generating more money than before. Yeah, so they have... The Visions of Eternity expansion was really good. Like, I know that there are a lot of players playing right now, or were in the past. We have a comment from one of the developers saying that, or from the Crouch, I even think, that this was better than the last 5 years in terms of players. So I'm not saying Guild Wars 2 is dead or anything, not at all. I think it's actually more alive than it has been in the last 5 years. It's just like pretty clear to me as a player that they have not the whole team working on Guild Wars 2. If you think the whole team of like 400 or whatever the employees they are is working on Guild Wars 2 right now, you are pretty like not seeing the reality. You know, they put out in Living World Season 4, 3 and stuff like that, they put out so much content within a year that is more than we got with the expansion model right now. It's just like, that's just what I see here as a rational thinking human. Yeah. If you change one of your weapons in equipment tab, then go to wardrobe and change the skin, do I get the equip vision every time, or am I missing something? I have no clue. I'm not too much into this. Maybe someone in chat can answer this. For me, it increased the enjoyment as well. I'm with you there, Snowbleach. I'm 100% with you there, but I can understand why people not that excited about it. People that expect new content every patch don't play MMOs for long. Yeah, that is true. It's just like, it's really hard to keep up with the pace of players. You know, players are playing the content way faster than any development team can develop them. It's just like, content, it will always lag behind the players. Players always play content faster than any game can produce. That's just how you have to accept that as a player. And I think that's why Guild Wars 2 is so good for me personally, because you have so many game modes other than PvE where you might need content. I think you can play World vs. World, you can play PvP, you can play Fractals, you can play raids. There are so many options. You don't necessarily always need to have new content for every single piece of content or game part, because it's not necessary, because there are so many others that you could play. That's just for me. I know not everybody feels like that, but for me that's the case. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. People are critical because they love the game. Exactly. Welcome, Paris. Welcome, welcome. Hope you're doing fine. First time checking your stream. Greetings from Argentina. Yeah, greetings back. Well, it's probably really like early in the morning or really late at your place. So thanks for joining my stream. Nice that you're here. Just give a Guild Wars 2 a new engine and pull 400 devs on it. Imagine that. So I don't want to spread any rumors or anything, you know, but just looking at the like job postings, looking at realistic how much stuff is put out in the Guild Wars 2 space right now, it's just, I don't see the developers being 100% like working on Guild Wars 2. It really, like, you cannot tell me that 300, 400 people are working 3 months to release this raid update and wardrobe update. That's just like, you are like illusional if you think that. Yeah. 7 AM, very good. Yeah, early birds, I guess. Very nice. Welcome, welcome. The problem with just mindlessly releasing content without improving core systems. Exactly. The problem is, for me, I can understand why ArenaNet marketing, or maybe even NCSoft marketing, is telling, we need more new content, not new features, because features are not selling as well. You know, you want always to combine content with features. If you only bring features, then some players that are not engaging with the features or are not really caring about it, they just don't like this update then. So you always have to think about every single piece of the player base, and then you can make a good content patch. But I agree that features are very underrated. Like, increasing the clarity, maybe even customizability of the UI would be insanely valuable for the game, especially for new players. But veterans might not care that much, you know? I played the game for over a decade, so I don't really care if I get an UI update, because I already like am accustomed to playing with this UI. So I think it's more for new players. That's why it might not be as fancy for ArenaNet to work on that right now. Yeah. Can you tell me 2 classes with the same armor state? So for example, medium armor don't have the same amount of survivability. My example, a ranger or engineer can stay in something of a boss and survive, and the thief is just going down. Both has the same armor buffs. I think the armor is more like a relic of the past. Like, armor should not be considered as something that like heavy armor is tanky, light armor is squishy. It depends heavily on the build. So, for example, Elementalist and Mesmer can feel very squishy because they are light armor, but then you have Necromancer, which can be very, very tanky if you think about Reaper, for example. And in heavy armor classes, you have the same. Like Guardian can feel very tanky with all the blocks, and Warrior because of all the stats it has, but Revenant can feel very squishy even though it's a heavy armor class because it might have full power build with no defensive stats in there. It heavily depends on what kind of build you're running. Yeah. Yeah, there's always like, I agree with you, there are so many possibilities or like arguments why you could see that not the whole team is working on Guild Wars 2 anymore, because they had so much effort put into older things, and nowadays they just don't have the time or developers to do that anymore. That's what I see as a player. Yeah. Hopefully when the secret project is more finished or released, they'll move some stuff back. Yeah, my really big hope is that as soon as they will announce it, that they will also put a healthy developer base back onto Guild Wars 2, so that Guild Wars 2 is in a state where you have like consistent updates that might not be as big anymore, but you have consistent updates for the rest of the lifespan of ArenaNet. That is my big hope. That players that enjoy Guild Wars 2 can play it for the next 10 years and have even new content and not only stick with the stuff that they have. But that's my biggest hope, yeah. Yeah, the sales have been always like that, I would say. Like you have every 3 months or something, you have sales. Yeah, typically. Big sales, yeah. That's normal, I would say. New player here, why is that when I try to go play World vs. World, I'm alone on the map? Sometimes the map has a lot of people. Most times I'm alone. It's more like you have to play at the time where the players are playing. You know, sometimes you play at off hours, sometimes the server is like very active, but they are private, because sometimes you can just want to have guild activities and you might not be in the actual guild. World vs. World is very community driven. If you're in the correct place at the correct time where your community is, then it's insanely active, like you can see here. But if you are at the wrong time, you might have a dead map, no one is there. It's player dependent, community dependent. And yeah, just find a group of players, a guild to play with, and then you will have more community. That's just the sad truth here. Welcome, Budget Gamer. Welcome. Keller is not a good encounter. So I think, you know, my thoughts about Keller is that it's a mediocre encounter. It's not the best, it's not the worst. I think what I think about Keller is that it's an encounter that has some unique mechanics, but a lot of them are a bit more like give a little bit of a different color to something that already exists. That makes it a bit more like forced, like kiting is like extremely important for Keller, stuff like that. I think that can be like feeling a bit annoying, but it's not bad, you know. I agree with you. If you're a raider and you are looking for an encounter like, I don't know, good example, I guess what people liked when it came out is Veil Guardian, or I guess Doom. Those two are like really beloved encounters in Guild Wars 2, I would say. Keller is not as good. Like almost everybody would agree, it's just not as good. But it's not as bad as, for example, I don't know, like I think maybe Cairn is one of the worst raid bosses. It's not very exciting at all. So I think it's a mediocre. It's in the middle of everything, I would say. It's not crazy bad, it's not crazy unique, it's not crazy hard, it's not crazy. Maybe it's crazy bugged. Maybe that's the unique selling point of this, but that's about it. Like, I don't know. I'm on EU. Yes, I'm on EU right now. Normal Keba is too complicated for the average pack. Yeah, I think the mistake they did with Wing 8 and Keller, those two, like, is in my opinion where they started to make this mistake, is that the normal mode is too hard. If you look at the normal modes from Wing 7, they are way easier than Keller and Wing 8. I think the normal modes should be almost as easy as the strike missions, the old ones, and the challenge modes should be where the real challenge lies in. I think in a game that is as casual as Guild Wars 2, you should not make hard normal encounters. I think that's not smart. You know, a raid boss like Temple of Febe, so Saros or Dacta, have the same difficulty as Keller or like Greer in normal mode? No, not at all. And I think that's a big problem. That's a big problem. Yeah. Yeah, 100% there. 100% with you there. I think the difficulty is off. That's for me the main criticism, I would say. Could you explain the legendary world versus world armor? How does the two versions of the same class work? The same armor class work? So I mean, if you have, for example, a legendary armor in world versus world from world versus world for like, if I have that equipped here right now on my Guardian, I can also equip it on my Revenant. And you just have to farm a lot of tickets for it. That's the main thing. World versus World skirmish tickets. That's what you need for getting the legendary armor in World versus World. And gold, of course. When they release Guild Wars 3, they will, like they did with Guild Wars 2, a lot of people will not go there, because imagine how many you achieved in Guild Wars 2 and then you get some skins for Guild Wars 3. I don't know. I don't know. I think if they do it well with like some kind of Hall of Monuments where you can get some achievements for Guild Wars 2 and then get some unlocks for Guild Wars 3, I think that is like people will go there and people will play it. That is the hottest take right now, or the coldest take, that the next expansion for Guild Wars 2 will be some kind of Hall of Monuments. Who knows? Who knows? We gotta think the possibility that Guild Wars 3 might not be an MMO like Guild Wars 2 and people might play both games. Yeah, that is also a possibility. We have nothing for sure. We don't even know if it's a Guild Wars 3 that they are working on. We don't know anything. We just know it is something in the Guild Wars 2, in the Guild Wars franchise, and it's Unreal Engine. That is the only two things that we know. What it will be, if it's an MMO or not, it could be an MMO light, could be a full-fledged MMO like World of Warcraft. And with raids and dungeons at the release, who knows? We will have to see until they announce it, if they announce it at any time. Yeah. Isn't it possible that they made it that hard so they give them more time and keep the player base engaged? I don't know. I don't know if like engagement is what you get from hard bosses. You know, I think it's a more frustration. I think a lot of players try it, or maybe not even try it because it's too hard, and then you have no engagement at all. I think you should balance like difficulty very like rigidly. You know, easy difficulty is way more accessible in a casual game like Guild Wars 2, where a lot of players play open world only, than making try-hard content for raids where like, I don't know, below 1% of the player base actually clear or engages with the boss. That is not a very like smart business decision. I think the main selling point of this expansion will never be raids. That's just not how it is, especially if the raid bosses, the new ones in normal mode, are that challenging. But I guess you're right, the hardcore player base is more engaged with it than if it's not a first try clear. Yeah. Yes, I'm on you. Yes, I'm on you. That's not how you keep people engaged. The people engaging with it can beat it. Most people who try and get rolled with it will never go again. Yeah, exactly. I think like people might get way more frustrated because it's hard. I think you have to have difficulty levels like normal mode, challenge mode, and the legendary challenge mode for each boss. And then you have the normal mode being somewhat face roll easy. Then yes, then I would say then a lot of people engage with the content. Because if you have bosses that give decent rewards and are easy in normal mode, and then you have a really cool like skin or something that you can farm from, like for example like Doom Skyscale from Doom in challenge mode, and you have that for Keller and the new fight coming with the last update, I think then you have people engaged with it. Not because the fight is really hard or somewhat hard in normal mode already. But I don't know, maybe they just said, yeah, we don't want to get new players into raids with this boss, we just want to keep the players that are already in there engaged with it. That can, of course, be an argument as well. Yes, I have a guild. You can join my guild if you write me in-game. Link is in the description, or you can just write me in-game as well. I can invite you. Or just join my Discord server, !Discord on the Twitch channel, and you will find it there. Or it's linked in the YouTube stream if you want to join them. It's not only the difficulty, I mean, I can't play half of my characters in Keller. This is kind of glass chilling. Yeah, I mean, this is a problem that I always talk about in my tier list videos, where I say some classes just have really good like flexibility and utility for doing kiting and doing specific mechanics. And if bosses force you to do those mechanics, then some classes are just straight up not possible to be played at this, which is I don't know, weird encounter design. I think you should have multiple options to deal with some encounter specific things, and not only with like, that was a lot of like chests. I don't know. I feel like it's really challenging for me to tell as a multi-classer that encounter design is a problem, because I just swap classes and it's fine. But I can understand if you want to play a certain class, that can feel very frustrating if the encounter is not letting you to really play it because you cannot fill that role. Yeah. Fair point, fair point. Yes, you can send me your in-game names or with the numbers in like in-game or in the Discord, and there's a specific channel with the guild invites. You can ask there. Yes. Yes, very good. I will invite you when I'm done streaming, as usual. Aren't there any decent World vs. World supports for Engineer? So the best support that you can play for Engineer in World vs. World is Scrapper, but Scrapper is not like insanely good as a support. It's a decent support, but it's not the meta pick. Typically Engineer in World vs. World is more DPS pick. You pick Holosmith, you pick Scrapper, you pick Amalgam. Those you pick as full DPS builds, and they are extremely good right now. It's really just like support. Scrapper was nerfed quite hard over the course of the time, and therefore it's not like insanely good anymore. It's decent, don't get me wrong, you can play it. It has nice super speed and stealth and stuff like that and Condi cleanse, but it was way better before. That's why you have other supports, like I'm playing Luminary right now. Those are top tier picks. Yeah. Welcome, Coding Phenom. Welcome, welcome. But yeah, I think Guild Wars 2 right now, if you're a new player and watching this, I think Guild Wars 2 is an awesome state to join, because we have a lot of new players, we have a lot of like returning players with Visions of Eternity, there's a lot of stuff happening. But if you're a veteran, I think the amount of content they're putting out is really like not as high as you want it to be. It's really like the amount of content is very low. And I think that might drive players away. And that's a little bit sad. So they have to be a bit careful to not overdo it with like putting all the efforts somewhere else. I think that's you should be careful. You know, this is still the main money maker. Yeah, so you should be very careful what you do with the game. Welcome, Boxy Boxer. Welcome, welcome. But this is just my opinion. You know, I play the game because it's fun, and I just do the stuff here because it's fun. But yeah, I mean, not everybody is like me. Some people play the game for getting new legendaries, getting new goals, and then it can feel a bit frustrating if there's nothing to do because there is not that much content. I can understand it, for sure. The good thing is you can take a break and not get punished for not playing a while. Exactly, that's definitely a good point for Guild Wars 2 for sure, is that you have so much flexibility and freedom. You don't need to be like insanely like active for like ever to so to say keep up with the gear. You can just come back in 6 months and you will still have everything. You just have maybe more content. Definitely a good argument for playing Guild Wars 2. But that's also negative, you know. Some people like to chase the carrots, you know, and like to get better gear. Yeah. That's just there's always a negative and a positive. It always depends on what kind of player you are. Yeah. Okay, our commander is apparently in the queue. Interesting. That's always good if the only person that is important in the squad is in the queue. Not the best, but okay, what can you do? The MMO scene is struggling though, so they might also think that it's because Guild Wars 2 is so established and mature, they'll keep most of their player base. Maybe. I don't know. I would really like to hear. Of course, we probably will never hear that, but I would really like to hear their thoughts about why they do the decisions with Guild Wars 2 and the future of the genre or their company. Why they decided to do it like they're doing it right now. I think that is very interesting to me to hear. Yeah. I'm a new player in World vs. World. I love Mechanist for low intensity, but in World vs. World is awful. So what is a ranged low button pressing roamer? Low button pressing roamer. That's tough. That's tough. Maybe Virtuoso? Maybe something like a Condi Virtuoso could be somewhat easy and not pressing that many buttons. But I think in roaming, it's like in World vs. World in PvP, there are not really low intensity builds. That just doesn't really exist that much, I would say. Yeah, I agree. More late game content would be good to keep the player base more engaged, for sure. I love it, and like you said, there's other things to do than content, PvP and World vs. World, but it's hard to argue that we are getting the studio's full attention. Exactly. I think it's like, that sums it up pretty nicely. It's not the full attention that we get. Yeah. Would love to have some kind of vertical progression based on skill. I think Guild Wars 2 will never have that. You know, maybe if there comes another game from ArenaNet, maybe, but I think Guild Wars 2 is too far into this like casual, you don't have vertical progression at all. I think they would alienate their whole player base if they would introduce something with like vertical progression. I think that's skill-based vertical progression especially, it's unrealistic. Don't see that. But I would be up for it, don't get me wrong here. Exactly, the dopamine hit of getting more stats, that's definitely missing. Yeah. The problem is not just the content density, it's also the fact that the majority of the content we just got is not directly towards new players or veterans. Look at Infallible or the new extremely rare raid drops, which aren't obtainable in any other way and haven't dropped in 15,000 kills. Who's that made for? Yeah, I think it's very interesting that they push so much into this tryhard scene, even though not a lot of players are actually engaging with this. Like, you know, I'm not mad about it. I think it's just like, where is the content for the other type of player, you know? It's like, if you have both types of players covered, sure, make tryhard content and tryhard rewards for tryhard people, sure. But if you have no casual content at the same time, that is weird. That is weird, for sure. I don't know. Very interesting what they think about this and why they decided to do this. No clue. To be honest, every game nowadays are like that. You play new content, burn out, and come back for new content. Now I rotate between Guild Wars 2 and Warframe mostly. I mean, that's fair. You know, that's just how it can be if you just play more than the developers put out. I think that's okay. That's not something to be like negative about. It's just how it is. Yeah. A good idea that they can take from other games is every expansion or story can have certain fractals or dungeon. Yeah, that would be really nice. Like we get one fractal with Visions of Eternity, but I think they should put more like replayable content, like raids, fractal stuff like that you can do daily or weekly out, so that players are more engaged. Because doing the story once is not really like high value for the long-term content of the game, for sure. Yeah. I mean, they added a skin on existing content that is like 1 week of a designer and 1 day of programmer's work. Skin may even be AI designed. I don't know. I cannot judge about this. This is not my type of experience, or expertise rather. But I would say like it's just the quantity of the content they're putting out is a little bit low, you know, for almost every type of player. So I hope we get more content in the next upcoming quarterly patches, because that is really concerning if they don't provide more content. Then you even have a lot of players joining, but as soon as they get to a point where they want new content, they see that Guild Wars 2 is not putting out that much content and they might quit. That is a problem. So I really hope the next 2 patches especially live up to delivering enough content. The last one really looks like promising. Fractal, Convergence, Raid Boss, Story, Map, Legendary. There's a lot of stuff coming with this one. But the next one? We will see. Yeah, exactly. I'm with you there, Old. I'm with you there. I think like having tryhard content that not everybody wants or can get is completely fine. But if you have no casual content at the same time, that's a problem. Yes, I agree with you. If I want the Mistforged version of the Legendary Armor, should I buy the exotic version of the Triumphant? Or do I need Ascended of both? So the Mistforged need the first, I think, to unlock the Ascended version, you need to get the exotic version first, I'm pretty sure. But if you have that, you can get the Mistforged directly, I think. Who is this for? Is a question I ask myself a lot lately. Yeah, that is a common question, I have to be honest, yeah. would say they struggle a bit with the identity that they want to have of the game. At least for me, it feels like there is a little bit of a struggle going on with what do they want. Do we push out more content for our casual players and lose all our tryhard players, or do we just push out content that is easy to do but is only for tryhards? And currently it looks like the second, and that's a bit concerning. There are not that many raiders that actually play the game that get infallible ever. So it's a nice title and all, but is that really like keeping the player base healthy? I'm not sure. I'm not sure. I said that because you said you wonder why they add content for small hardcore scene. It just wasn't a lot of work. I agree. I think it's probably because the low amount of effort they have to put in is way more important to them than having something that everyone wants. Yeah, I think that's probably the biggest reason here. Yeah, I think you are completely right there. Also, hot take, and people will try to skewer me for it. Guild Wars 3 needs a monthly sub to actually provide the content Guild Wars 2 try to put out. Gemstone purchases apparently don't fund development enough, hence the lack of content. So this is a really interesting debate. Let me hydrate before I answer this. This is a really interesting argument. I would say it's all about how you sell it. So I think a subscription fee like World of Warcraft and Final Fantasy have is definitely smart in terms of business decision. The problem is I don't see ArenaNet doing that because they already are known as a company that is selling buy-to-play products. So will they destroy their image by going for a sub fee, which might save them in the long run and give them enough money to invest into getting better content on or more content out? I don't know. I see both sides. I would pay a sub fee. I will also pay, of course, just a single amount of money. Sure, either way. But I have no clue what the marketing team, and I think there will also be some NCSoft influence there, what they will tell and what they will force. I have no clue. I really don't know. I would really like to hear what they think about it and what they plan. But we will have to see until they announce it properly, I guess. No, I think, to be honest, like a sub fee in Guild Wars 2 does not work. In Guild Wars 3, if it will ever come out and if it will be called like that, it depends heavily on what kind of game it is, if it will work. I think ArenaNet is not known for having sub fee games, and therefore I'm not sure if they want to be known as this company or if they have ideas how to make that worthwhile and good for them. But I think they make a lot of money with microtransactions. So if they do it correctly and do it the same in Guild Wars 3, I think they might actually make enough money without a sub fee. It's just all how they sell it. That's more the thing. I think we are a lot of players here in chat and in the community, and we're talking about stuff. But especially when it comes to a new game, a lot of players are always not only talking, me included, about stuff that we actually expect to happen, but also about stuff that we want to happen. We mix it up, and it's really hard to avoid. And that's the same with the sub fee for you specifically, I would say. I don't know if it will, but it could. I don't think that Keller is for tryhard players. I don't know. I think it is. I think it's made for it. It's not for casuals, for sure. Fee would be fine as long as there is enough content to do throughout the fee, but high-end content is very limited. Yeah, I agree. I think it's like, if you put out enough content to justify a fee, sure. But I'm not sure if they are able to do that. Yeah. Yeah, for Guild Wars 2, the game director is Crouch. Josh Davis, I think he's called. Yeah. So they are there, and they're often, not often, but sometimes give interviews as well, and sometimes even writing blog posts and stuff like that. But you're right, they are not as popular in general, where they talk to the press and to players and stuff like that. That's just not really, yeah, it's just not that yeah, it's just not as popular, you know. If you don't even know the name of it, it's probably already a telling sign. Yeah. Oh my god. Got him. Took a while, but got them. Yeah, I heard Guild Wars 3 is gonna be remastered Guild Wars 2. I don't know. I don't know about that. We will have to see. We have no information. No information at all about that. I don't think they need a sub fee if they are smart about fashion, like customizable weapons and spell. Yeah, I think if they do it, like, you know, look at, for example, MOBA games, like League of Legends, Dota, like CSGO. It's not a MOBA, I know, but like look at those games, like Fortnite. They don't have a subscription in that sense, yeah? But they still make enough money because people buy cosmetics. And it's not, it's yeah, you could say it's microtransactions, but it's not quality of life, not at all. It's unlocking new skins, yeah, mostly. So in a lot of cases, I would say that if you do it well in a game that is built up from the ground with this in mind, like customizable spells, customizable characters and skins, then you can make enough money from that, I would say, at least in my opinion. I'm not a marketing guy though, so I don't know. Good mount steal will make more money than a month of a sub, 100%. Like just the bikini sales in Guild Wars 2 made probably more money than a sub fee would have done in the whole month. Yeah, for sure. Yeah. A remastered would be preferable as someone who just started playing. Yeah, I think the thing is, like, do they want to cater to an audience of players that is like already invested in Guild Wars 2, or they want to cater to a player base that is not invested? And I think the argument there is they probably want to cater to a new player base as well, because the old player base is already playing the game. And if they want to, they will play Guild Wars 3 as well. They know about it. It's more about the new players that they want to attract with a different kind of game. So I think it's remastered is more unlikely. Yeah. Ritualist Shadow Nerf is illegal? I don't know. Who knows? They did. If they want more money, they can put the pre-order bonus for sale. For sure, for sure. Yes, this is Fresh Air Evoker. Nothing special. Just Fresh Air Evoker. I really like to play Fresh Air Evoker in roaming. It's a skillful build. It's a fun build. It's very fast-paced. It's my type of build. Yeah. Like to see ArenaNet introduce an expansion, not with new elite specs, but new specializations in general. Yeah, core specializations. That was my big tip before Visions of Eternity was announced. Yes, I agree. That was my big tip, what I thought would happen. They didn't do it. Maybe next expansion. Yeah, that would be fun. I think it feels really good. It's not bad at all. I think it's a really, like, it's an ST roaming build right now. Yeah. Even after all the nerfs to it. It's really good. Really good build. Yeah, but I like I said, I think we don't know enough about anything what ArenaNet is cooking in the background. So I personally would say, like, we can make educated guesses from the job descriptions. We can, like, think about what they actually put out, what they are trying in the game right now, and what they want to do in the future, sure. But until we get an official confirmation from Crouch or from anyone at ArenaNet that is able to do that, to give that, we can just speculate. And my hope is that they will tell us at some point this year. Because for me personally, I think, like, it's feeling a bit like we are lost a bit, you know, the player base of Guild Wars 2. But why is the game not getting as much updates as before? What is happening? Or not as much content? What is happening? Why not make more, like, content? What is the problem? What are they doing in the background? Yeah. So that's my, oh my god, the whole circus hunting me now. Stop it. That's World vs. World in a nutshell. 15 people or something hunting me. Okay. After 4 nerfs, it's still strong in competitive modes? Yeah, exactly. It definitely is. It definitely is. I feel like the player community in MMOs is searching for the next big game to settle on. World of Warcraft, Final Fantasy, Guild Wars 2 have been running for so long, respectively. It has no surprise that Ashes of Creation was so popular. Yeah, I agree. And, you know, it doesn't matter which MMO actually pulls it off. The next new MMO that is actually good, like really good, people will have it will be the biggest selling MMO. It really, I really think so. There are so many people looking for new blood, new stuff to do, new games to play, and there are just no good MMOs. And that's if the next company, maybe it's the Riot MMO, maybe it's ArenaNet's MMO if they do one, that will be a big hit, yeah, for sure. But if Guild Wars 3 can be the first and also good, then it will be really successful. Yes, 100%, I agree. They just put the fries in the bag already and announce Guild Wars 3. I think as soon as they do that, you will see no sales for Guild Wars 2 anymore. So they want to, if it's possible, delay it as long as possible. That's my educated guess. So, because they still have content for Visions of Eternity coming out, they want to sell this expansion, and therefore they will not announce it yet. I don't see a reason to announce it to just decrease their potential money. Yeah, that's my guess there. It's sad for players like us that want to know about it, but I from a money-making perspective, it makes sense. That's my guess there. But who knows, you know, I could be proven wrong. I would be happy about it. I just hope that we will get some news this year. That is my big hope. I will play Guild Wars 2 until then, or even after that, but I want to hear what's going on. I really want, yeah. Yeah, I'm with you there. I think like if Guild Wars 3 has the goodies of Guild Wars 2, I will play it. Even if it's not an MMO, I will play it. It just needs more. World vs. World is very unique. If that's in there, I will play it. Even if it's just GVG, I will play it. It's good, yeah. I do feel we'll get an announcement within 6 months. Yeah, I think that is reasonable. I would say that seems reasonable, yeah. In the next 6 months, yeah. That's probably like more towards the end of the 6 months, I would guess. But yeah, I would be saying that's okay. I feel like I have too much time and money in Guild Wars 2 to swap to Guild Wars 3. That is a fair concern, but you know, what is the... So you have two options. Either you play Guild Wars 2 and say, okay, I don't get new content for the game, but I invested so much into it, or I play the new game that they are doing and get new content. I think it's like you have to make the decision for you. There is not much like difference, you know. You cannot, a single player or couple of players that don't want to quit Guild Wars 2, you can still play Guild Wars 2. So they will not change the decision of ArenaNet. They will still make a new game because that will make them way more money than keeping the old game active, I would say. That's my guess there. If they announce Guild Wars 3, it won't be until after the Visions of Eternity update. Yeah, that's my guess as well. I think we have to wait until the last Visions of Eternity update is out. That is my guess. I think before then it would probably cut their sales of the expansion so much that they will avoid it at all costs. They really want to sell the expansion. And that makes sense, you know, it's producing the money for making the new game possible. So that's my guess there as well. Yep, I agree. Announcing expansions so early makes no sense to me either. I think it's better to announce them when they are sure there won't be unpredictable delays. Yeah, I think they learned from that. I think they will not announce any expansions like way ahead of time, at least not the release date. You know, they can tell that we are working on another expansion. I think that is okay. But if you say the next expansion will happen in 2027 or something, and you commit to it, and then you notice, oh shit, we have way much stuff to do, there is some problems that we cannot fix in that time, that's a problem. So I think it makes more sense to keep it close to the chest. Yeah. Yeah, the waiting is not good either. I agree with you. Waiting is not good, but I can understand it. I can understand it. I would like the information right now. Not saying any different. I'm just saying from a realistic standpoint, I can see that they wait a bit longer. Yeah. Even if it's a console game, I will still play it. I will, you know, they make good games. If it's like a, I don't know, an RPG for story with on console and no good combat, then maybe not. But I think if they somewhat live up to the combat that I have in Guild Wars 2, then it doesn't matter what kind of game it will. I will play it, yeah. So how long have they been developing it though? No, MMOs take so long. So from the information that we can roughly estimate it from the job postings, it has been at least 5 to 6 years. Yeah. that they have started developing it. Yeah. Yeah. In hindsight, do you think Visions of Eternity launch was a success? I would say it was a success, yes, because we got a lot of new players, we got a lot of veterans coming back, stuff like that. But I personally think it also could have been even better if you had better follow-up patches. So I think the first follow-up patch here was so badly received from the community that it really like decreased the value of Visions of Eternity. So I hope that next updates will actually live up to the launch and then it's better. But right now I really feel like the launch was good. Not the best expansion launch, but a really good one. And I hope that the follow-up patches, especially the finale patch, will be like really great. Yeah, that's my biggest hope. I'm leveling an engineer. Do you have a core build guide? No, I don't have core guides, or I have core guides, but I don't have leveling guides, because in Guild Wars 2 leveling is really short and very easy, so to say. So I would just recommend you to level engineer if you have fun playing it, and try out different stats, try out different weapons, try out different traits, and just try to have fun and experiment a bit. And as soon as you reach level 80, you can check out my website or my YouTube channel, whatever you like, and you will find guides for everything there. Leveling in Guild Wars 2 is really just like enjoy the journey of experiencing it for a bit. It's really not something that you do all the time again. Yeah. When I look at the footballs for Hope on the wiki, they are light red and light blue, but in the game they look like 100% saturation red and blue. Did they change that? I don't think so. Yeah, I mean, I would be up for the Diablo-like dungeon crawler interior. I would be up for that. I don't know if that's the type of game they're developing. I think it's probably closer to an MMO, but who knows? You know, I would not be opposed. If it's good combat, I would be up for it. What kind of build are you playing right now? Fresh Air Hair Evoker? Yes, exactly. This is Fresh Air Hair Evoker. Nothing special. I have a build guide on my YouTube channel about that. It's really like meta build. The only thing that is not really meta is that I use Arcane Lightning instead of Evasive Arcana for even more damage. Oh my god, they're here again. They just... I want to roam. I don't want to fight 20 people. There we go. Expansion launches are mostly good. The follow-up patches are usually the killing perception, and deservedly so. Yeah, that's the problem, you know. It's always like... A good example is if you do one bad thing and you did 10 good things. The bad thing is the thing that will be kept in mind, you know, that people will remember. And that's the same with this, like the expansion, Soto, Chante Wilds. Those expansions had good launches, but no one talks about this anymore because the last patches of them were probably one of the worst patches in the entire story of Guild Wars 2. Yeah. So this is hopefully not the same with Visions of Eternity, but it's yeah, that is what is the problem with the yearly expansions. That is the big problem here. Hopefully we don't have that with Visions of Eternity. Super Adventure Bucks will be in April. It will probably start at maybe end of March, but it will definitely, typically it's around April 1st when Super Adventure Box is there. Around this. It's typically 3 weeks. Yeah, 3 weeks. Typically 2 of them in April, something like that. Of course, I don't know yet because they have not confirmed it, but it would be very surprising if it would be something different. Yeah. Stream sniping team? I don't know. I think they're just like, they have nothing else to do. They want to get some kills. That's more like it. Yeah, starts strong and then it ends badly. Yeah, it's sadly, it seems like the typical pattern. Yeah, sadly. Just a tunnel over and over? Yeah, hopefully not. Hopefully not. I really have high hopes for the last patch. I think the last patch, I would be so surprised if you deliver a fractal, a convergence, a challenge mode, and a raid, and an open world map, and story, and a legendary. You know, this is such a long list. Plus relics. I would be so surprised if the last patch is bad. I would be so surprised. Because you have so much content that you already announced in there. If they deliver that content, I don't know. That would be just very, very surprising to me. Can we get the rest maybe? No, we cannot. I mean, we got the kill at least. Don't kill this. No, they got the rally. We got the kill at least, that's good. I'm not really excited for the new maps as a pattern, being last two maps are the ones I dread going to when I first. Yeah, I think the last few open world maps that were not the expansion release maps, I am also not really like enjoying going back to. I get that, but I still have hopes for it. Thanks, Asmir. Nice. Nice, a full year subscribe. Nice. Appreciate it. Appreciate it. Thanks a lot for the support. Hope you still enjoy the stream after all this time. Yeah. I've never played World vs. World before. I think that's what you're doing. Yes, exactly. What's the best way to get into it? I would say just try to find people. Like playing in a Zerg is typically very easy because you just have to find like a group with a commander tag and you just follow them around and get some camps and capture some keeps and stuff. But what I'm doing is roaming, so I'm playing a solo build and try to kill enemy players. That's what I'm doing. But both of this is viable. It's always like you just try to have fun and try to find something to do in this map. It's always about playing against other players. Okay, get another 1-on-1 here. What is that? That's a cook. Ah, this is the... Okay. Holy moly. How much damage was that from this relic? That's insane. Crazy. I think there are people that wait for Inet so they can push forward. The pitchfork mentality. Yeah, that is true. There might be a lot of people to wait for something really big negative happening to Guild Wars 2 and ArenaNet and can quit the game. I think that's always people just wait for a reason to quit, even though they already want to quit. Yeah. 100 gold prediction, the Fractal will be a HP sponge boss with bug mechanics. I mean, that is pretty much a given. The question is, are the mechanics fun if they are not bugged? You know, that's the question, and I have high hopes, but who knows? Like, I have no clue. You know, it could be that the Fractal could be very boring and just like take 10 minutes and that's it. Yeah. We need some different relics, some special effects we didn't have in the game, similar to the glancing hit one, although not the best one. Yeah, I think like we need relics, need to be more interesting and more unique and gameplay changing. I think you don't want to have relics that are just stat sticks and just give you 7% damage buff. That's boring. You want to have some exciting relics. I agree with you. Yeah. Cheers from Serbia. Nice. Welcome. What would be one big thing you would change about the game if you could? So one big thing that I would change if I could would be customizable UI. That's probably the thing that I would change if I could. Not necessarily because for me personally, why I'm just accustomed to it, I don't need to change it, but I think a lot of new players bounce off the game because they just don't have the visual clarity, they don't have the customizable features that other MMOs typically have, like making your eye bigger, remove something, put it somewhere else. Guild Wars 2 doesn't have that, so that's what probably my number one feature to change, so that we get more new players and players sticking around. Yeah. For sure enjoying the streams, but it's become pretty rare, new work, and mostly only have time on the weekends. I mean, that makes sense, don't worry. It's also like, I don't have as much time to stream right now anyway, so we will see. Hopefully that changes with the upcoming update, you know? Do you know why my DPS is like 30k on Power Virtuoso when Snowcross is 44k on the Golem? Press all the buttons right, and still not even close to the benchmark. It's like you have, if you press the rotation in the correct order and the correct speed, and you have the perfect gear, you should get to the benchmark. Yeah. The important part is you have to activate your boons and you have to activate your conditions on the golem. And this is the most two common mistakes if you forget that. You know, conditions on the golem increase damage by at least 25%. And if you also put out the boons, then you increase the damage way hard. Yeah. Get build and gear specific for World vs. World, so you are unlikely to feel useful. Yeah, that is true. Always play. Oh, there are 3 people. Should we try it? 1v3? Let's go. To wait a bit for the... Okay. Okay, we have one. One down. Not enough. I wanted to heal with my 3 skill. That's fine. Sad. We could have won that if I played it better, but they had a lot of range damage. That's always a problem. Sad. It's fine. Yeah, not being able to move the UI is so bad. Yeah, I agree. I think like UI updates would increase like the value of Guild Wars 2 quite a bit. Yeah, for sure. I'd wanted an Unreal Engine 5 and a new mount that can fly without using up stamina. Maybe in the next game. Yeah. I wish I could see when my enemies has stability or not. Yeah, the thing is, like, you don't want to make the UI too customizable as well. You know, if you can see like very easily if the enemy has stability or stuff like that, then I think it's good in a way. But if you can customize everything and have macros for everything or whatever, that you flash up like the enemies glowing yellow or something if they have stability, that would be too good as well. You want to have a balance between good UI and information that you get, but at some point you also want to have some skill involved. You don't want to have like the UI telling you everything with the click or with like one look at it. I think Guild Wars 2 competitive modes are actually quite well balanced in that regard. Yes, there are some annoyances with all the buffs that you can see here, and then it looks like really like what buff am I looking at? Yeah, sure. But I think you should also like at some point you want to like have some skill expression as well in the game. If everything is perfectly visible and everyone sees it at all the time, then I think it's also not like very likely to have skill expression anymore. Yeah. If you're not getting close to the benchmark, you're not doing everything right. Exactly. After releasing a tier list, gain 10% engagement, Relic of Syrma. I mean, that sounds fun. Yeah. I mean, I'm actually, at this point, I have to be honest, I'm running out of tier lists. So if you have any good ideas, like actual good ideas for tier lists that you want to see, I'm all up for it. Just let me know, you know. I like doing tier lists. If you have any really good ideas and really like not only fun ideas, but also things that could help other players, I'm all up for it, yeah. Why are buffs called boons here? No one knows. This is just Guild Wars 2, you know. Boons is their system of buffs, yeah. In my opinion, there are also a ton of dead matters. Yeah, that is true. Like Guild Wars 2, it's just like you have really big games like WoW, Final Fantasy, Guild Wars 2. There is always some part of the game that is not alive. It's really hard to keep everything alive. Yeah, hyping affects rotation a bit, yeah. A tier list of the tier list videos you've made? Yeah, coming up. I'm already working on that, yeah. It's a fishing buff, yeah, exactly, a fishing buff. Why not, you know? It would be an interesting relic though. I don't know if fishing relics should exist. Builds per boss. But the problem is like, how would I make a tier list about builds per boss, you know? There are so many bosses right now, like let's say 30 bosses. So I make a tier list for every boss or something like that. That would be a lot of like effort put into like one video. Maybe I make a series out of that, 30 video series. But would people watch that? Would people actually care? That's the question. I think a lot of players in Guild Wars 2 don't engage that much with like specific builds and encounter strategies. I don't know. You know, you have to make something that like not only a single player wants, but like most players would engage with. I don't know if that's that exciting. Who knows? Best builds for Decima CM? Harvest 10%? Yeah, maybe. Like I said, I think that would be more of an encounter guide, and then I talk about the builds that are actually worthwhile running in this specific encounter. Maybe that's better suited. Tier list for priorities for new players to open up their account. That's good. That's good. I like that. Because that's more like something that I can actually give important information to players. Like talking to what the best builds are for a certain encounter. Yes, that's crazy. That's good information. But there are so many encounters nowadays. Yeah. You could make raid boss guides like Mucklers, but I'm importing good. Yeah, I mean, I was thinking about doing raid guides when Quick Play came out, but then I lost the interest in making raid guides because the Quick Play did not include any raid bosses. I'm brutally honest here. You know, I've thought about making a full raid guide series before Quick Play actually released. Because I thought, oh my god, Quick Play is reviving the raid scene, people will go into raids, I can make raid guides and people will actually stick around in raids and I can help the community. But then I saw that Quick Play didn't even have raids included and I lost all my interest in making guides about it. It's just like, it's so sad to say that, but that's how it was. Yeah. Yeah. That's really, that's what I felt there. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, if you make like skin playlists like wardrobe, I will definitely like my legendary like weapon skin tier list is already like a lot of people had some hot takes in the comments. Let's say it like that. For sure. Like skins is very, very like there's a lot of debate going on with skins for sure. For sure. I would like you to have an interview with ArenaNet discussing the game and the future. I would be so up for that, but I highly doubt they will give any interviews to partners or something. Maybe the press, but even that seems not very likely. Yeah. Made an Excel sheet for all the remaining legendaries I want to craft with order and upcoming to-dos. Why am I like this? I mean, I can fully understand that. I have that as well. You know, sadly my spreadsheet is with the legendaries and stuff is already empty, but I have that as well, Haldir. I'm with you there. I think like having a nice to-do list, I do that for all the games that I play. I think we are just like structured like this. It's fun. Yeah, I agree. Good like thing to do. Yeah, there are no raids in Quick Play. There are just strike missions, the old strike missions in there. There are like 10 strike missions, like Whisper of Chormek, Bone Skinner, Kyning Overlook. There is not a single raid boss in there from the original raid bosses. So that really like made for me the making a raid guide made it way less appealing because it's the same community. You know, nothing changed. The raid community did not increase by increasing Quick Play. That's the sad part. Yeah. Yeah. So much excitement for Quick Play raids, and all we got is 2 strike missions with scuffed quickness and alacrity. Yeah, I think Quick Play is like, I was very hyped for it, and then when it came out, I noticed that it's actually not as good as I hoped. I hope they iterate on it, but it's really like, for me, it's a bit of a fail. A bit of a fail because it doesn't really work as some kind of like staircase to getting better at raids. It's more like you can see strike missions if you never saw them, and that doesn't make you better at the game. It really doesn't. I don't know. It's weird. It's weird. Yeah. Supportive DPS class, not boon DPS, but DPS that have valuable sides bonuses like stability. Yeah, I mean, I try to include that in my DPS tier list because I value DPS, yes, but I value also utility in DPS tier lists. But I think you could make a full tier list about it as well, yeah. Interesting idea, yeah, I like it. I like it. Yeah, I think more interviews would be for the... I just in general, not only interviews, but also like talking to the devs in live streams, sharing their thoughts about what they actually want to do with a specific change or what they want to achieve with the future of like raids or stuff like that. More talk with the community would be awesome. I think that's one of the things that is the not saddest, but one of the saddest parts of ArenaNet is that they tend to not communicate a lot. And that's a bit of a bummer because I want to hear their opinion. Why did they think it's smart to introduce like the raid rewards, but don't introduce anything for casual players that don't raid? Stuff like that. I don't know. I think it would be very interesting just to have a civilized conversation, maybe on the dev stream, maybe in an interview, but that would be very interesting for sure. Yeah. It might make sense for them to do that at the end of Visions of Eternity, for sure. Yeah, they could do that for sure. I don't know. We will have to see. I have to be honest right now, the biggest, for me, hope for the future is that I get more talk about what ArenaNet thinks and what they are planning. That is my biggest hope for the future. Yeah. Hated that you don't get the turtle unlock in quick play. That is weird. That is so weird. Yeah, they should definitely include it. Yeah. And that Old Lines Court is in there is also big troll. Like I did it 5 times in quick play, and out of those 5 times, 3 times we had someone CCing the first thing instantly and we all wiped. That is, yeah. Yeah, quick play in a nutshell, I would say. I'm new to Guild Wars 2 and their so-called meta trains has to be done with the commander. Small party without commander. Can't do it. So you can still do it without a commander. That's completely fine. But a meta train is, so to say, like you do multiple big ticket events after one another, and typically there are, because Guild Wars 2 is just like made like that in an open world map, those meta events, there are a lot of players. So you will typically, even if you are just in a 5-person group, that doesn't mean that there are like 40 other players around you as well. So typically, if you do the meta train, like going from, I don't know, Pinata to Chuck Garant to Auric Basin, you will get other players on the same map and you will still do it as 50 players, even if you're in a small group. Yeah, that's just how the game is at this point in time, how the game is played as casual community. Yeah. Yeah, I think it would be really nice to talk to like more like bigger streamers in Guild Wars 2, like Teapot, maybe Muckluck, Lara, if they have time and interest to do so. And we can talk about the game and what they think, like the future, maybe stuff like that I'm actually somewhat have some knowledge about, you know? Because I don't want to talk about fashion templates, for example, on a podcast, because I'm just not, like, I'm not the guy that interacts with fashion templates. But if Lara, Teapot, Muckluck, any other Guild Wars 2 streamer wants me to have on their, like, stream, talk about it, make a podcast or something, have a topic that I can actually share my opinion because I know something about it, I'm more than willing. I'm actually very happy to do that. But of course, that's something that needs to be from both sides. Yeah, and people need to have time for that. So hopefully that will happen in the future. Yeah. Why do they never patch things like the Karmic Converter not working in the Wizard's Gobbler or broken matters for mastery points? Who knows? I don't know. I think like bug fixes, stuff like that are already like out for more than 2 weeks, it's often rather like ignored. And that's sad. Very sad actually. Because I still hate that the Relic of Norris is bugged on Mesmer, one of my most theory crafting relics out there. But it's just bugged. It's just straight up like you cannot use it on Mesmer if you don't use a tonic. It's just what? What is this? Is it like shortbow power revenant? I think that is shortbow power renegade revenant. I mean, we got them and we got a kill. Nice. This, how many? They always are like at least. Never mind. I'm dead. There's so many people always hunting me. At least I got one person in like a 1v5. Almost. That's good. Yeah, I agree. I think like I'm not like, that was just one example. You know, we don't have to talk about fashion. I mean, just because someone changes their fashion doesn't mean I can't talk to them. We can talk about other things. The game is big. Yeah. The only exciting announcement I'm waiting for will be this disclosures of Doomscale's drop rate chances. Can't wait for the 0.00006%. Yeah, I mean, I was surprised that they announced the drop rates for blackline chests and stuff, that is crazy to me, that we now have like the actual numbers for example, for the super rare drops. Because like, you know, you are here in chat, Asmir, but you got like multiple of those already. And the drop rates for getting them are extremely low. They now confirmed how the drop rates are. I think they are like 0.006%. So the chances of getting one is extremely low. It's like you need like a lot to guarantee it even more. But even if you just want to have an average chance of getting it, you need a lot. And that's, yeah, quite crazy. Quite crazy. Do you think everyone should buy a Commander's Tech eventually? I would say if you are somewhat invested in the game and if you want to continue playing the game, yes. I think a Commander Tech can be very helpful, but I would say not everybody, because some people just generally never tech up, even if they have the Commander Tech. So then it's not worth it. It doesn't help you if you never use it, even if you have it. So I think you always have to have the mindset of like, I will be the leader at some point, maybe not all the time, but at some point. And then it's worth it, because you can create your own groups, just stuff like that. But it's not a must-have for everybody. No, I don't think so. Yeah, exactly. This was just required below. Otherwise, they would never had the drop rates released, for sure. Any ideas when Elven Ears cosmetic is coming back to the Gemstone? No clue. We have no clue when it comes back, but typically there will be. In March, there might be good chances that there's some cosmetics coming back that you want. So just stay tuned. March is typically a good place to get all the stuff from the skins from Gemstone. Yeah, I think the Doom thing, the Doom drop rates and the infusion drop rates, that would be awesome if they reveal that. But I think they don't have to reveal that, because this is just like a drop from a boss. But the loot boxes are actually, by law, they have to reveal that. That's why they did it, not because they wanted to. And I think Doom Skyscale is probably not in the law requirements, I guess. Yeah. And even those in-game numbers are somewhat misleading, since they are added up for each category. Yeah, I think that is, to me, I can't show it here, but yeah, that is to me the biggest weird part, is that they show the added up numbers for the whole category. That's like, okay, that doesn't help me that much. If like maybe they are equally split, maybe not, who knows? That's definitely weird. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, those drops aren't in loot boxes, so probably won't happen. Exactly. And people don't think in categories, they think in specific items. Exactly. Is this game active in general, like big for an MMO? Yes. Guild Wars 2 is in the top 5 in terms of active player base, as far as I know. So yes, it's big. It's just not as big on like social media and YouTube and Twitch as other MMOs, just because the player base is, I would say, mostly casual. Meaning that you have less interactions with like outside of the game. Not being, the game is not dead at all. It's very much alive. Top 5, I would say. Yeah. So if you're intrigued by what you see, you can check out my YouTube channel to get more information and more guides, and you might find it interesting for you. Yeah, it has a lot of players, so it feels big if you play it. It's just like really, there is not as much attention on the social media, but it's really big. Yeah. Not best game for streaming, watching, but definitely the game is very populated. Yeah, exactly. I noticed that a lot if I play Guild Wars 2 and stream it. I have decent viewer numbers for my size of my channel, but if you look at people that play the game like every single day and are actually good at it and like really dedicated to streaming it, it's just like if they would play other big games, they would have like probably 10 times the amount of viewers. It's just like the amount of players that actually engage outside of the game with content of the game is rather low. That's why it doesn't seem as big, even though it is really big. Yeah. Open world is really big, and world versus world, so open world PvP is also really big. Recently, it has started growing a lot in social media. Yeah, I think they did a good job with marketing. Ever since Visions of Eternity marketing started it, they did a really good job. It's still, of course, not perfect, but they are doing a really good job of like pushing more like marketing value, more attention to the game. I would say so, yeah. Okay, we have a thief here. A bit scary. Okay, very good. Oh, that was a very good dodge by this Herald. Maybe we can CC chain him. Yep, there we go. Oh my god. Daredevil. You will see Daredevils tonight. You know, tonight is monthly AT. Get the kill. So tonight is monthly AT and you will see Daredevils. Daredevils are extremely good in the current meta. 6th of March. Nice. See, someone knows. The pointed ear package is coming back on the 6th of March. So yes, it will come back very soon. I do like instance content too, so hope that's good here. Yeah, instance content is really good in Guild Wars 2. It's not like you have like, I don't know, thousands of different instances to do, but you have a decent amount of them. So it is definitely like you can play the game, get into it, and have a very long time of playing it if you only enjoy instance content. Is the Evoker Otter mega spell also a water field? Yes, it is. Yes, it is. It's definitely not even close to World of Warcraft or Final Fantasy's instance content, but it's definitely there. So if you only play instance content, maybe check it out and see how it is. But if you are into... Oh my god. But if you only play instance content and you want content for the next 10 years, then maybe don't play it. Guild Wars 2 is known for its open world, for its competitive modes, and for the flexibility of all the different game modes. But it's not like, if you only play a single game mode of that, that might not be like the absolute best thing. Yeah, it's a different kind of game. It's not for everybody, sure. We should go on the thief if we see it. Okay, we have a lot of down people here. Let's get the rest. I will participate in monthly AT, but I'm still a noob. That's fine, you know. That's the cool part. Everybody can play PvP, even if you're level 1 in the game. It doesn't matter. PvP is for everybody. Everyone is equalized in terms of like stats, so it's really, really nice, really easy to get into. And I would say the monthly AT tonight will be very exciting. What we see is the new meta. Which Daredevil would you say is the easiest to get into World vs. World roaming? Sword Dagger. I think that's the easiest to play and it's also the best right now. Sword Dagger is extremely strong. Nice, I interrupted the healing skill. It's quite good. They didn't teleport back. Nice, we got them. The lesser spell is not a water field. I think it's just the better water field. It's just the empowered version. Yes. Fractals and Fractal CMs hold up to the Mythic Plus spam if you have a group to do it without being the caveat. Yeah, I think Fractals are actually really underrated. It's really good in like for instance content. But if you're looking for like 10-person instance raids and stuff like that, you have like 30 bosses or something. So it's not even close to World of Warcraft's amount. So the amount of content you have is straight up lower. That is true. But it's not bad. Like definitely not bad content in terms of how it is. Yeah, how hard are Fractal CMs compared to Mythic Plus keys? Like 10 to 12 maybe? It would be interesting to know. I would also like to know. I have not played Mythic Plus before. Oh my god. Core Guardian with a hammer. Gotcha! But I think I will die now. Because they can get the res. Oh, they have a lot of people coming as well. Sad. Depends, 10 to 12 are easily done by random packs after 2 to 3 weeks. Of course, we don't know how now, because Midnight just released and we don't have weak hours anymore, which was a massive crutch for all the less talented players. Yeah, I don't know. It would be very interesting to know about how hard it is actually Mythic Plus compared to Guild Wars 2 Fractals. Dungeon and Guild Wars 2 are not the same as in most MMOs. Fractals have taken their role. Yes, that is true. High keys in World of Warcraft are difficult, way harder than any Fractal CM Guild Wars 2. Yeah, I guess that makes sense. That was a very aggressive teleport. You should not do that in most cases. CC's chaining, so you cannot get the thing. Yes. If you CC chain a Herald in the last few seconds before they die, they cannot use their healing skill. That's very important if they haven't tapped it before. Gotcha. I still need a ton of hero points unlocked to get my elite specs. What's the fastest way to get a ton of... Sad. Interesting. Does my Paragon have a banner? Maybe? No, they don't. Yeah, I think like hero points, the fastest way is to get it through World vs. World. So just going to the World vs. World vendor that sells the hero points and then you just get them unlocked. If you have the testimonies of Heroic. That's the fastest way because it just takes like a minute or so to unlock all the elite specs. Other than that, just do hero point trains, I would say, yeah. I would say some of the harder Fractal CMs are equal to the top end of packable levels. I think it always depends a bit on what kind of player you are, you know, and sometimes in Fractals you can be very, like, if you are just very skilled, then you might just not notice how difficult they can be for some type of players. But that would be very promising then for me as someone that never has played Mythic Plus, because I did, of course, all the Fractal CMs and I don't really think they are that challenging. So, interesting take there, interesting. All the while playing with Illidan's Blindfold on due to the visual moment. Yeah, that is true, that is a bit annoying. Yeah, World vs. World can give you hero points, yes. It's actually really cheap. I can purchase now, to be honest, I'm playing World vs. World somewhat casually, like every single week a bit. I can purchase like, I don't know, probably hundreds of characters full hero points unlocks at this point. It gives you a lot of that. You don't need to do a lot to get this unlocked. Yeah, it's for new players. If you like World vs. World, it's one of the best ways to get new characters and get the elite specs unlocked. Yeah. So just play World vs. World, get rewards for doing it, and then purchase hero points? Exactly. Exactly. Oh, another one. This is the Hammer Guardian. Bit careful here. Nice, got them. Close, but we got them. Oh my god. Is there something simple to grind for gold while listening to Twitch streams? I would say fishing. fishing is probably the easiest, but you can also, of course, do meta events. They are also very, very chill for most players. Oh god, this is just obnoxious. It really is. This is just disgusting. Like, luckily I got the kill here, but this is just like so much damage with the engage. It's crazy. I can imagine Syrma as a catcall already. Yeah, maybe in the future. I don't know. I have no interest in fashion and like roleplay or something. I have no clue. This is probably the most interesting question. Will Syrma start World of Warcraft or Final Fantasy when it burns out from Guild Wars 2? So my hope is that when I burn out from Guild Wars 2, that the Guild Wars 3 will be already out. That is my big hope. But I don't know what I will start. If I will ever start something, you know, it's like, for me, it's always like, if the combat is good, if the systems are good, if I have fun playing it, I don't really care what kind of roleplay is behind it. I really don't. If the systems are good, if it's fun to play, why not? But right now, Guild Wars is the best in terms of combat for me. That's why I play it. Yeah. How's the new scoring system? It's very bugged right now. They had a lot of issues with it. I think they even disabled some of it. Yeah. Yeah, it's disabled, yeah. Exactly. It's like nice, we did it. Top layer revives. That's what you want to be as an evoker. Very good, very good. The more I learn about the game, there are so many systems and functions that aren't well communicated in game for new players to learn about. Yeah, I really try to cover that on my YouTube channel, but I'm with you there. I think Guild Wars 2, one of the biggest issues for new players, but I think that's not only Guild Wars 2, that's all other big games as well. There are just so many things to talk about, and there are not enough tutorials in the game. Yeah, 100%. I don't know how they can fix this. Just make more tutorials, I guess. Yeah. What other games do you play? Is Guild Wars 2 your main game? So I play Guild Wars 2 a decent chunk, most of it on stream. I would say the main game is Guild Wars 2 because I make so much content about it. But I play other games as well. Like I mentioned here, oftentimes I play Warframe, I play roguelikes off stream, stuff like that. But I'm not really having any game that is close to the numbers of hours that I played Guild Wars 2. That's just not even close. Yeah. Yeah. But yeah, I think that's also the end of today's stream. So I had a blast. I hope you enjoyed it. And I wish you all a very nice weekend. Thanks for watching. Thanks for your support. I have some good videos, tier list videos as well coming up. Thanks to your ideas. So be sure to check out my YouTube channel. Take care. I wish you all a very nice weekend. Good night, good day, wherever you are. Thanks for watching and hope to see you around. Take care.